4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the debates. Wow, what a great video. Thank you, Josh. Roaring applause again. Man, deafening. Yeah, so thank you to Josh for that sizzle reel. That was great. And yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to the debates. But before we get going, I want to give a land acknowledgement before anything else starts. So I'm hosting this debate from the unceded ancestral and traditional territories of the Musqueam people. However, many of you are likely in other locations. I encourage you all to, after I'm done with my land acknowledgement, either type out in the chat or give me 5 seconds of airtime on where you're coming from. But yeah, I want to reiterate something I said yesterday, which is that the politics that we're engaging with here are important on the student scale, but they're even more important when it comes to the individuals that it's affecting. In terms of like folks from marginalized groups are most often and most likely to be adversely affected one in their answers, in their questions, and the successful candidates after Friday of next week to move forward with those considerations in mind. So yeah, I'll open the floor up now to any chat messages or vocalizations of the land upon which you are. That's chill. All right.
I don't know if you can see.
Sorry, what was that?
I have my hand up.
Oh, gotcha. I don't think I saw that because I didn't become a host.
Oh, I need to make you a host. So yes, my name is Isabel. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Chief Electoral Officer. And I would just like to say that I'm calling in and I guess hosting this Zoom from the traditional, ancestral, unceded, and shared territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations in a neighborhood now known as Kitsilano, which is actually the name comes from a hereditary name in the Squamish Nation. So, and our place names tell the history of the place.
Thank you, Isabel. Right, so I want to get things going. Oh, by the way, my name is Pavan. I'm the coordinating editor of the Ubyssey. I go by he, him, and I'll be your moderator for today as well as the great debate. So you'll be hearing my voice a lot. Oh yes, thank you, Danica. That nativeland.ca is great for checking out the treaties, languages, and I believe the nation's territories upon which you are. So it's really good for that. Right, yeah. So my name is Pavan. I'll be your moderator today. And there's the agenda. It's going to be changed up just a little bit to reflect some changes that we talked about yesterday, but I'll explain all of those as time goes on. And yeah, so I wanted to express first and foremost. So today is going to be a lot more audience focused, audience centric, if you will, where we're going to be taking a lot more questions from the audience, but we want to make it a little bit more orderly. So one of my editors, Charlotte Alden, one of the news editors at the Ubyssey. You can see her little image with it's a little black and white photo of herself, and she has the Ubyssey in her name. If you can private message any questions that you have to her, or you can post them in the chat publicly, that's more than fine. But yeah, just so we can make sure that we have a steady pipeline of the questions that they'll be coming to myself. We're hoping for all of the unopposed races to have time for at least 5 questions, maybe more, depending on all the time that happens. Oh boy, scary. So yeah, maybe more depending on how much time we have, but yeah, at least 5 audience questions for the unopposed races in lieu of them having open debate with themselves. And then we're going to be modifying the Senate race just a little bit. We're going to be giving a couple extra minutes for open debate in those spaces so that the 10 candidates have time to differentiate themselves and say their piece on any assortment of things. There was some confusion about open debate yesterday and like the question of whether we should keep it or not. I think that it's very important to have it for the larger things like BOG and Senate, where the individual questions aren't as easy to like pick out the individual characteristics of people. Let me say individual 10 more times. To pick out the particular characteristics of everyone, particularly when you're like in the middle and you're like numbers 3 or 4, where you're like, oh, I can just kind of go off what the person before me said. That's not great. So yeah, open debate is meant to be a time for you to kind of assert yourself. And again, there are implications of asserting yourself in politics that privilege those who are privileged, but it's kind of politics, you know, and it's kind of like the format of a debate, unfortunately. But again, I will be here to ensure that there's some amount of equity when it comes to those times. So yeah, moving on to the first debate. So we're going to be doing the VPX debate today first, and if I can get everyone except I mean, I guess Isabel, you can keep your camera on, but anyone who isn't Saad to turn off their cameras, that'd be great. Thank you, candidate Shob. I'm sorry. How do I pronounce your last name? Shob.
It's Schweb.
Schweb. Gotcha. Thank you, candidate.
Yeah.
Schweb. So right. So the format for this, and you'll be the guinea pig for everyone else, is we have 30 seconds for opening. We have 3 questions from the Ubyssey, in which you will get 2 minutes to respond to each. After that, you will have at least 5 audience questions, as I mentioned, and for each of those audience questions, you will have at least 1 minute to respond. I will press you if I feel that you're not responding to a question adequately, and I'll give you 15, 20 seconds to answer. And yeah, if you continually refuse to answer a question, then I will vocalize it and have it be noted. And then at the end, you have 30 seconds for a closing statement. Oh, sorry. This is another thing for any candidates that are in the chat, and I'll be repeating this throughout the night. Yesterday, we had some candidates putting their websites in the chat. Some were prompted, some were unprompted advertisements. That's not great. I don't really like that. So if I see that you're posting your website in the chat, I will deduct time from one of your answers. So, you know, if Saad were to do it right now, then I would take away 15 seconds from one of his questions to use you as a guinea pig. And yes, that would be the way that any of that works. And if it's like after your debate and you're like, oh, I can sneak in my thing now because Pavan has no time, I'll either take away time from you at the great debate and I'll like note it down, or I'll ask Isabel to like put you in the penalty box or something. So yeah,
sounds great. Sounds great.
Yeah, it's not just to you.
That's completely fair. Completely fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and if it's in response to a question, just vocalize it. Say like, you know, ubyssey.ca is where you can find my platform. So anyway, there's that.
So just to clarify, in my closing statement, can I plug my website or no?
Yes. Yeah, you can vocally do it. You just can't have it be like available in the chat.
Sounds good. Alrighty.
All right, candidate Schweb, let me pull up my timer and I'll give you 30 seconds to get going. All right, candidate Schweb, you have 30 seconds for your opening statement. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Saad, and I'm running to be your next Vice President External. Throughout the past year, I've served as your Associate Vice President External, where I worked on all advocacy from the portfolio, such as the SkyTrain to Ubyssey, the removal of interest rates on federal student loans until 2022, and more. I've firsthand seen the need for reforming the ways in which the AMS operates its advocacy, consultative processes, and accountability mechanisms to you, the students, while also continuing to build on the existing progress that the AMS has made in terms of external advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Schweb. And I apologize if I didn't explain. When I raise my hand, you have 15 seconds left in answering your question. So wrap it up, and then when I do this, you have like 2 seconds to just finish your thought.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and if you continue to go on, I'll mute you. Again, I'm not directing this to you in particular. I'm directing this to
all good.
Right. So, candidate Schweb, your first question, for which you have 2 minutes to respond, is such. The VP External Office led a voting campaign during the snap provincial election this year. In what areas could the AMS have done more, and how will you hold the NDP to its commitments now that they're in government? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Thanks so much for the question. It's really important that we get out the vote through medias that students are used to. The Get Out the Vote campaign that the Office of External Affairs did this year back in November was social media oriented, and that's what we need to continue doing when it comes to voter turnout from students and highlighting the issues that matter to students. We need to make sure that students have a platform to address their concerns and provide their concerns to the candidates, and that candidate debate that was held was a really good platform for that, because it was a direct sort of contact with the Vancouver Point Parade. Additionally, it's also really important that we continue to make sure that the NDP are being held accountable through lobbying efforts and through campaign efforts. This year, one of the things that I did as the Associate VP External was work on our provincial lobby week. where we saw the commitments that the NDP had made, both throughout their campaign and also through their mandate letters, and we used those commitments in order to effectively lobby the provincial government, and we used those commitments in order to effectively lobby on areas of operation of supporting the post-secondary sector in terms of operational funding, in terms of making sure that housing affordability. And in terms of making sure that students were included in rental support programs. Additionally, we also made sure that the provincial government was being held to their commitments with regards to Indigenous student support and also with regards to SkyTrain to UBC. Last things that we've been continuously lobbying them on is their sexual violence prevention reform, and that is something that I continue on planning to do. It's really important that student leaders are loud and that we continue to be loud on that front.
Candidates Webb, moving on to your second question, because there is an open debate in unopposed races. Right, so your second question, for which you still have 2 minutes, is construction for the Broadway subway will take place during your term if elected, but governments haven't secured funding for SkyTrain to UBC. What do you think the government should do now, and how would you advocate for it? You have 2 minutes.
So it's really important that we understand that the federal government just recently established the Permanent Transit Fund, which invests $3 billion annually into infrastructure projects across Canada. That's a key piece of sort of a program lobbyists for the SkyTrain to UBC and advocates for the SkyTrain to UBC can use. Additionally, we also need to be lobbying the Mayor's Council. The Mayor's Council, which consists of all the mayors of the Lower Mainland, need to see the importance of the SkyTrain to UBC, because the SkyTrain to UBC isn't just important for UBC, it's important for all of British Columbia because of the jobs, because of the housing affordability, because of the reconciliation, and also because of the sustainability options it offers. Those are all very, very important points to all students and also all British Columbians. While this is a long-term project, we need to continuously make sure that we're fulfilling the required milestones and working with the involved stakeholders in ensuring that we're completing those required milestones. Just upcoming is the public engagement process, where we will need to make sure that students have a voice in that public engagement process, and that students are being loud about the SkyTrain to UBC, and making sure that the provincial and federal and municipal governments understand that it's a necessary infrastructure project for both BC, for Vancouver, BC, and Canada as a whole.
Thank you, Candidates Webb. Moving on to your last question, we have, how do you see the AMS's role in UCRU developing? How would this relationship benefit UBC students? You have 2 minutes.
Absolutely. So just beginning on the development side of things, one of the things that I personally did this year as the Associate VP was create UCRU's bylaws. And we made sure that the AMS was playing a strong role in creating those bylaws, because the AMS has had a history of joining / creating and then leaving or advocacy organizations, and we definitely want to make sure that we're learning from those mistakes and that we're continuing to build on the existing we're continuing to build on the stuff that we've learned from those previous organizations. Additionally, on the sort of advocacy front of things, UCRU consists of 10 out of the 15 U15 student unions, and that is a very, very important voice. This year, during our federal lobby week with UCRU, we advocated for, the removal of interest rates on federal student loans. We also advocated for increased investment towards, youth and student employment, and we got those, almost $1 billion into student employment, student and youth employment, and the removal of interest rates on federal student loans until 2022. One of the things that I definitely will be doing if elected as the VP External is making sure that the AMS takes a strong leadership position within UCRU. I'll definitely be running for the vice chair position of UCRU to make sure that the AMS's concerns are represented, and to make sure that the only Western Canadian school in UCRU is accurately being represented. One of the things that I really, really want to work on UCRU with, aside from the removal of interest rates, is advocating to the federal government that they meet their emission reduction standards. This is something that is super, super important, and it is something that U Crew needs to continuously advocate for, because the climate that we live in will be the climate that impacts us in the future.
Thank you, candidate Schwab. All right, cool. So that's 3 Ubyssey questions.
Great.
And now we're going to move on to the audience question. We've got one right here. So again, as a reminder, you have 1 minute to answer to these. And if anyone in the chat wants to send them over to news editor Charlotte, her name is Charlotte dash the Ubyssey. So if you can private message her your questions or just drop them in the chat. Right. So this question is, how will you make your advocacy grounded in community and community needs while online during COVID? How will you effectively build relationships with the people you're advocating for? You have 1 minute.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that's really important to note is that online advocacy takes a lot more effort than in-person advocacy does, and that's because of the effect that online advocacy may or may not have. We need to continuously make sure that we're taking as many advocacy opportunities as we can. This year it was really important that the AMS partnered with the GSS to create their own lobby week. Because we had our own interests, and we definitely wanted to make sure that the voices and the concerns of students at Ubyssey were being accurately represented. And additionally, opening up the line of communication between the VP External, the VP AUA, and students. One of my platform points with regards to transparency and accountability is to work with the Vice President of Academic and University Affairs to host town halls where students can learn more about the AMS advocacy and voice their concerns and channel it to our federal, provincial, and municipal advocacy.
Thank you, candidate Schwab. Right on time, right on the dot, rather. Right. So this next question. So you've spoken a little bit about the accolades you've achieved this year in your portfolio with the VPX. This question is about one of the other things going on with the VPX. So the question is, the VP External is currently undergoing a conflict of interest investigation based on his relationship with the Plug, an organization you were part of until recently. Did you ever use AMS resources to do the Plug business? And how will you make sure you stay in line with AMS conflict of interest guidelines if you're elected? You have 1 minute.
Absolutely. While I did work at the Plug Vancouver, my job was solely limited to data analytics. I used to look at social media impressions, engagement, and public outreach. It had absolutely nothing to do with what the conflict of interest that question is referring to is. I've since resigned from the Plug to ensure that there are no future conflicts of interest. During the conflict of interest period, the mandate that was given to me by my boss, Vice President External, and by extension the AMS, was to advocate for students on issues pertaining to affordability, accessibility, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and that's what I plan on continuing to do if elected as the VP External.
Thank you, candidate Schwab. Right, so that's a couple of audience questions. One of the things I promised 5, but that's only if we get 5. So yeah, audience, I'll give you another chance to type out your questions to Charlotte at the Ubyssey. So yeah, we'll give a couple of seconds for that, but I won't keep you for much longer given that we're coming up on the end of this debate.
Sounds great.
Fingers crossed. Oh, there it is. Great. Perfect. From this next question is as follows. What are you going to do to be accountable in your advocacy on sexual and gender-based violence? How will you work with organizations that are on the front lines of this work and survivors? You have 1 minute.
Absolutely. So, the main thing that we need to focus on is that the provincial government's status quo solution to this, which was establishing that working group, is lackluster. And honestly, it's honestly disappointing. We need to be continuously working with provincial partners and survivors to make sure that we're efficiently advocating for the establishment of extended minimum standards as sexual violence policies or for sexual violence policies at universities and colleges across British Columbia. Also lobbying the government to provide increased funding towards the creation of sexual violence prevention offices. This is something that was included. Both of these points were included somewhat interpretively in the Solicitor General's mandate letter, and we need to make sure that we're holding the provincial government to account with that, and we need to make sure that we're building those relationships with survivors and also with sexual violence prevention offices and also other student unions to advocate for this in a collaborative manner.
Thank you, candidate Schweb. I'm going to give you 15 extra seconds to talk about UBC in particular. You spoke a lot to universities in the province, and that's great, but I do want a little bit for UBC if you have anything. So 15 extra seconds for that.
So, sorry, just a point of clarification. Could you repeat the question by using UBC in the context?
Sure, yeah. What are you going to do to be accountable in your advocacy on sexual and gender-based violence to students at UBC? And how will you work with organizations at UBC, that can be SASC, SV Pro, or anyone else that are on the front lines of this work, and survivors at UBC? You have 15
Absolutely. So, once again, opening that direct line, between me, myself and the students. This year, one of the things that I did was work with SASC on our sexual violence prevention advocacy. We worked on ways in which, we could improve, the recommendations we're making, and making sure that the recommendations we're making provide survivor-centric, trauma-informed, and intersectional policies. And so that is definitely.
Thank you, candidate Schweb. I gave you a couple extra seconds there, but yeah, we'll top out at 27. So yeah, that's a third audience question. Audience, anything else? Can we get oh, we've got one from yeah, I've got one sent to me. Oh, I'm honored. Okay, so this asker says, I can't help myself but ask. The AMS membership consists of 10,000 graduate students. This year, the AMS and GSS have had historic collaborations, hosting their first joint AMS-GSS Lobby Week. Saad, how do you plan to advocate for graduate students going forward, besides working closely with the GSS? You have 1 minute.
Absolutely. It's really important that, even in my platform, throughout my platform, graduate students are mentioned. First of all, advocating for increased investments into the BC Access Grant, and making sure that graduate students are included in that BC Access Grant. I will continue working with them by opening that direct line of communication, while also continuing to work with GSS, and also making sure that they know that I am also their representative to the provincial and federal government, and that they can always speak to me about issues, and that they can also always show up to the town halls that I plan on, if elected, hosting, where they can voice their concerns, and they can open that direct line of communication with me.
Thank you, candidate Schweb. We're going to do this song and dance once or twice more. If anyone has any last minute sliders of questions, I'm happy to ask, or else we can let candidate Schweb on his way. And see him at the great debate if folks want to marinate on what he said today. And yeah, give them both barrels at the Khaled, I guess in years prior there have been predecessors who've stepped up to the plate. So send your message to Charlotte, and she'll evaluate. Right. Oh, and we have another student. We have another question here as well. So, candidate Schweb. Is many years off. UBC only has to do on these variety.
Very important issue to me. I'm going to be approaching this from an internal and external perspective. First of all, working towards the construction of an AMS-owned housing cooperative. This year, we explored that with UTL by positioning a feasibility study, and if elected, I absolutely will be pushing that feasibility study through and progressing towards the next steps of building an AMS-owned housing co-op, which is a lot more cheaper because of the lack of administrative costs that it has. Also pushing the provincial government to invest another $450 million into the creation of more student housing. Back in 2018, they invested $450 million, and those financing options have since, almost been depleted. And so it's really important that, that those financing options be renewed, and that the provincial government continue to support the creation of more student housing.
Thank you, candidate Schweb. Right. So we've got another question here. That's also about UCRU, so I'll give you, rather than, I'll give you the full minute. A minute's whatever. What are your plans for UCRU moving forward? But I want you to answer in particular for light of the potential membership fee. You have 1 minute.
Absolutely. So, it's definitely important for, that fee to be standardized, and for that, and for us to, review that fee. Additionally, we want to make sure that students acknowledge that the AMS is paying for this. Even if there doesn't need to be a referendum passed, we need to make sure it's our job to make sure that students know that that they're paying for this, what they're exactly paying for, and what we're going to get out of UCRU. I'll be advocating for a standardized fee because that's the easiest for us to work on. That's the easiest for us to that's the easiest for us to pay, and also it's a lot more efficient. Additionally, it's really important that the AMS plays a large role in creating the fee for UCRU, and that'll be done through the governance committee, and that's absolutely something I'll be pursuing.
Candidate Schweb. All right. I think we've just about tapped out this audience for questions. Thank you all for sliding them in on a very timely fashion. So yeah, unless there's anyone, last one coming in, Charlotte, anything? If not, we'll let Candidate Schweb go. Good stuff. All right, Candidate Schwab, that's the end of your audience question period. I'll give you 30 seconds to say your goodbyes. Go ahead.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. My platform ranges on issues from transparency, housing affordability, student safety and wellness, climate action, transit solutions. I have concrete plans that not only continue to build on the existing advocacy of the AMS, but also introduce new ideas. You can check out my full platform at www.votesod.ca, and feel free to reach out to me on social media to talk more about my campaign, myself, or my platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Schweb, and big round of applause.
Thank you.
All right, so now moving on into our VP Finance debate. Right, so can I get the VP Finance candidate to turn on the camera and get into the octagon, not the octagon, I'm the referee. Hello, Ken again. How are you?
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Doing just dandy. So as a reminder of the rules, and not for yourself, which is for everyone else. So do not post your website in the chat. If you will, I'll get angry, and then Isabel will get angry.
Got it.
You will have 30 seconds for an opening, 2 minutes for each Ubyssey provided question, and then hopefully at least 5 audience provided questions, to each one you'll get 1 minute response. And in all of those questions, I will be raising my hand when you have 15 seconds left, and then I'll be like twisting my hand or something to indicate you have like 2 seconds left. So finish your thought when you see me doing this. If you continue on well past your time, I will mute you and I will thoroughly reprimand you. Say, hey, please don't do that. Cool. All right, audience, please remember to send your questions off to Charlotte. We want to make sure that we get all the good questions for candidate Gan here. And again, yeah, so there is no open debate section for this. We're opting instead to provide that time to audience questions. So, candidate Gan, can I get your 30-second opening statement? Go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Mary and I'm running for VP Finance. As a current AVP Finance, I've been able to oversee the financial operations of over 300 clubs and constituencies, manage the $25 million AMS budget, work on health and dental plan, and manage fintech projects. My platform includes making mental health support services more affordable for students, implementing a Canvas learning hub for treasurers, increasing AMS funds usage and awareness, and improving transparency of AMS finances. Please visit my website, marygan.ca, for more details. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Gan, right on the dot. All right, so your first question, to which you'll have 2 minutes to respond, is the AMS considered using a surplus to expand mental health coverage under the health and dental plan this year. Would you permanently expand mental health coverage next year? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, so mental health support services and making sure that students are able to be able to access more affordable services is one of the big points in my platform. So right now, from previous years, we do have a underutilization of the health and dental fund. It's around $2 million in total. And so as you may know, we've been working on different kinds of ideas on how to spend that. We've been consulting with students as well. And a really big request of students is to kind of use that fund towards making mental health support services more affordable. For example, implementing a subsidy, which is part of my plan for next year if elected. So my plan exactly is to work with the GSS and the Health and Dental Committee to implement a mental health subsidy so that students who are in need, who have kind of hit a wall in terms of financial funding, are able to get some subsidy towards their mental health services. And also working with the student care and GSS to establish a mental health support provider network. So similar to what we have right now was, for example, a dental network. I want to do more research with different kinds of providers in the lower mainland to have like a network of mental health services that will provide discounts on their services so that students can access mental health support services but at a reduced cost. This is all towards trying to make sure that students are able to maximize the amount of sessions or support that they can get out of their current AMS health and dental coverage, which we're working at increasing. So that's kind of my plan for next year. I definitely want to do a lot more consultations with various groups on campus to make sure that these plans are implemented with thoughts of everyone, considerations of everyone in mind, and making sure that it's equitable.
Thank you. Thank you, Kat, again. Thank you. Right, so moving on to your second question. Audience, make sure to get your questions in. How would you navigate student backlash if you were forced to raise fees? You have 2 minutes.
I think the biggest roadblock in previous years, along with raising fees, is that the main issue basically is that students don't really know where AMS fees are going towards. For example, when I first entered the AMS, even as AVP Finance, I was quite confused on where AMS fees were going to. There's actually a lot of really cool initiatives, a lot of really amazing things that both the student government offices are doing, the student services side are doing, that are supported by the AMS general fee. There's also so many fee receiving groups that are conducting really great things that are all supported by money that the students are trusting us with. And I do understand that, especially during a pandemic, it's really hard in case if like the general fee does go up. However, I think it's important to make sure that students understand how their money is being spent first, so that they can know that even if, for example, on the chance that the fee does increase, that they know that the increase is going towards all of these amazing initiatives that they may not have been aware of before. And I think that would kind of lower or like reduce the backlash because, for example, some of the AMS fees go towards the club's benefit fund, which goes towards supporting clubs at Ubyssey. If, for example, students know that their money is going back to them in terms of helping clubs and supporting student life at Ubyssey, I think that would be a good way of kind of diminishing the backlash and working along with it. As long as students know that their money is going towards the right cause, I think there will be much less backlash, and that will be the way that I would handle it.
Thank you, Kenneth, again. But I think that you've laid out your plan fairly comprehensively. But I do want to press you for a little bit more like detail on how you would inform students. Would it be via the VP Finance email? Would it be via Facebook, some things? Or yeah, so I'll give you 25 extra seconds for that. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I understand that AMS finances are really unclear for a lot of students, and it also is in my platform that I want to work with the communications department to really simplify AMS finances, make sure that it's easy to understand for students through simple infographics or videos. I really want to connect with the entire student body. This may also come in form of including financial information in mass emails to the student body so that they are connected with my portfolio if elected, and that they know exactly, how finances work at AMS.
Thank you, Kenneth, again. I appreciate that clarification. So moving on to the last question, and then we've got our audience questions. According to the 2020 Academic Experience Survey, only 1/4 of students agree that they trust the AMS to spend their money wisely. This indicates a huge lack of trust. How would you rebuild student trust? You have 2 minutes.
I think transparency has always been kind of a continuous issue. There's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of background institutional knowledge that is associated with AMS finance portfolio. And I think that also contributes why a lot of people don't really trust AMS to handle their student money. Because, for example, when you go on the AMS website, it's kind of difficult to find all the financial information. It's difficult to understand the budgets. There's account codes, there's numbers, there's a lot of jargon that a lot of people don't understand unless you're in the portfolio yourself, which is obviously a select amount of people. So I think it's really important to make sure that AMS finances are a lot more clear, reduce jargon, reduce the barriers to understand it. And as I said before, working with communications to really simplify how the AMS budget works, to really show how, for example, how $7 is going towards this, and these are the initiatives that they hold. $43 of your fees are going towards this, and really just clarifying exactly how student fees are being spent and making it in a very digestible format. I think that is really important in making sure that AMS finances are transparent, and hopefully that would increase the students' trust in us managing their money, because it is a lot of money. It's millions of dollars, and of course I want students to know that their money is put in good hands.
Thank you, Kat, again. Respectfully, every year I've been at Ubyssey, they've made similar promises about the finance website, about such things related to communication. I really do want something else from you. So you have 30 seconds left to answer. So if you can give me something beyond making the website look nicer and making some infographics, I would really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think yes, it has been promised perhaps in previous years. However, from what I've seen, everything still remains along the same. For example, the budget is still difficult to understand. The quarterly reports have a lot of jargon, and I think, first of all, I really want to connect with the students. I think the AMS executives, they may seem as kind of closed off sometimes from students because they're like part of the AMS, they're part of like the executive team. However, I want to really connect with students. I think making sure to bridge the disconnect between the AMS executives and the students is a good first step, and being able to reach out to them more. For example, I'd like to make videos, for example, of me trying to explain exactly how the AMS budget works, stuff like that. I think would be really good.
Thank you, Kenneth, again. I appreciate you taking my enhanced questioning in stride. And now we've got some audience questions. So, first question is, oh, and for these you'll have 1 minute to respond. The AMS financial portfolio, I'm sorry? Did you say something?
Oh, no.
Oh, gotcha. The AMS financial portfolio has faced criticism over the last 2 years from students for a lack of communication and transparency to specifically constituencies and clubs. Additionally, wait times for reimbursements have also increased significantly. What do you plan to do to address these issues for clubs and constituencies stemming from a portfolio that you've been actively a part of over this last year?
Yeah, so I think we've made a lot of progress this year, especially with everything being online. Me and my team have recognized that it's extremely important to keep up with emails, keep up with communications, and I think we've been able to achieve quite considerable progress. For example, we sent out a feedback form a couple weeks ago, asking clubs and constituencies to fill it out and let us know how we're doing. I think collecting feedback is really important in the term to make sure that we are serving students to the best of our capabilities, and also making sure that they are getting like the support that they need. For example, for us, it is not as easy to tell how we are coming off to the clubs and constituencies. So I think, for example, sending feedback forms out to make sure that we are supporting them as best as possible is a really great way. Also, I think with the new Canvas Learning Hub that I'm hoping to implement, that will keep students and the AMS finance team really connected with all the different kinds of updates, and etc.
Thank you again. Thank you. To clarify Emmanuel Ruba's question, you can send them in the main chat, or send them to Charlotte. You can send them to Isabel, but Isabel will just send them straight up to Charlotte, so it's kind of like, cut the middle person out. Not that Isabel isn't great. So yeah, just send them to Charlotte, or you can throw them in the public chat, if you're comfortable. So yeah. Moving on to our next audience question. The AMS's businesses are in significant deficit this year due to COVID, and if fees are not going to go up, cuts will have to be made. Where would you make these budget cuts in the next year if elected? You have 1 minute.
Yeah. So I think that the budget cuts would likely be continuously made in the salaries and wages of student government. It's something that we implemented this year. We had delayed hiring, which meant that some positions due to COVID weren't very active, so we decided to omit hiring for them. For other positions, we may have hired them later. The salaries and wages consists of like 85% to even higher of student government budget, and I think it's really important to make sure that we're not really cutting services for students. Instead, I think student government is the place to focus on, particularly salaries and wages, because this year we've done that and it's worked for us. I don't think we've experienced any particular interruptions in how we're serving students, and I think I would like to continue that in the next year.
Thank you, candidate. Again, moving on, we've got some great questions from the audience. Yeah, your third question is, as VP Finance, are you going to find ways to reduce AMS costs and spending for reduce fees on students? And you mentioned something similar in the previous question, but this person is asking particularly about there are many AMS fees that are outdated, that they say are outdated and need updating, since in their opinion it is not money well spent. So you have a minute to answer that.
Yeah, I definitely think students do have a lot of financial burden, especially during a pandemic, to pay a lot of the AMS fees. I've seen a lot of posts on, for example, Reddit or different kinds of social media that do go over how students are expressing concerns over paying AMS fees. And of course, I love to listen to the opinions of students, making sure that their voices are heard. So I'd love to do a code review of all the AMS funds and fees and make sure that they are going towards the right initiatives. If, for example, something is not, for example, as used anymore, I think my team has been looking at the childcare bursary fund recently to see if the childcare bursary fund fee still needs to be in place, if they do require assistance or not. So, for example, for fees like those, I'd really love to do more research to see if those fees need to stay in place, doing the right consultation, and making sure that students are happy.
Thank you, candidate. Again, I agree. Students should be happy. That's something I'll get behind.
We go through a lot, I think.
Right, and so I think we've got one last question from the audience. Sorry, 1 second. Let me just find it. Right, so this one is going to be about tuition increases. Right, Charlotte? Yeah. So yeah, this one's going to be about tuition increases. So as the VP Finance, would you go over Ubyssey financial plans and make sure that the tuition increases through Ubyssey are going to be of use or benefit to the students, and inform the student body on Ubyssey financial decisions? To kind of like repackage this question, I think the individual is asking, like, how would you help out with tuition consultations and with tuition, getting the word out beyond just the VPAUA's portfolio, making it part of the VP Finance portfolio? So yeah, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I think tuition increases is definitely a concern for a lot of students. For the AMS finance portfolio, at least in my current position as AVP Finance, I haven't really gotten much interaction with Ubyssey in terms of their tuition increases. However, if elected, I would definitely like to step into some conversations with some officials at Ubyssey administration to make sure that student voices are heard. I think I would like to collaborate with the academic portfolio, since they are definitely the portfolio that works a lot with like advocating for students. I would definitely like to work with the academic portfolio to see if we can work together to advocate for students on behalf of them, for perhaps seeing how tuition increases can be curbed, or trying to explain to students better on why tuition is increasing. I think I'd like to definitely work with the academic portfolio on that, and use AMS social media channels to express what we've collected in terms of information.
Thank you, Kenneth, again. And that'll bring us to the end of our audience questions segment. Audience, if you have any more questions, we still have the great debate to go through, so you'll get one more chance to ask Kenneth again your particular questions. So, Kenneth, again, I'll give you 30 seconds to say goodbye.
Yep. So hi everyone, thank you so much for coming out tonight to listen to our candidates. Over the past 3 years, I've witnessed both the strengths and weaknesses of the AMS. As for example, my previous experience as a constituency VP Finance, Treasurer, and currently the AMS AVP Finance. With all this experience, I have the institutional knowledge needed to successfully lead the finance portfolio at the AMS. If elected your next VP, I hope to build an even stronger portfolio and support students to the best of my capabilities. Visit marygan.ca for more, and thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you, Kenneth, again. Again, virtual applause. They're just raucous. So yeah, thank you so much. And now we're going to be going into our break soon. But are we doing a prize draw? Is that happening?
Yes. So
right, you guys do that.
I just resent in the chat the Qualtrics. So if you're here in attendance and you would like to be included, have your name included as a possible winner for the prize draw, please fill out the Qualtrics, and we will put all the names onto a fun spinning wheel, and then we'll draw the names. No candidates, no Ubyssey journalists, unfortunately. But everyone else is very welcome to put their names in. So we'll do the draw at I think 5:50. So you have 3 minutes to fill out the Qualtrics. Okay, so we're just setting up the spinning wheel, but right now we will be giving away 1 pair of headphones and 2 gift cards. And at the end of the debate, we'll give away the other 2 pairs of headphones and the other 2 gift cards. So we should be able to do that in just a minute.
While we're waiting, I just wanted to give a big shout out to Isabel and her team for all the work they've put in thus far, for bowing to the whims of myself as a moderator and allowing me to cowboy this whole thing. So, yeah, thank you, Isabel, for that, and thank you to your team for all of this. Despite not being able to win this tech, man, what a great prize. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Okay, let me see here. Field of names. Let me just let that load. Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to screen share. Okay. Don't mind my grad school stuff in the background. Okay, so for the first gift card, let us spin. At least I'm trying to spin. Okay. Okay. So, can you all see this? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Mahmoud, you have won one of the $25 gift cards. So we already have your email, so I'll be sending you an email this evening. Great, very exciting. I'm going to take you out so you can't win again, sorry. Then the second gift card. Okay, that's Danny. Congratulations. And now for the first headphones. That's Carrie. So if Mahmoud, Carrie, and I'm blanking, I'm just. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm sure Mona was paying attention. But yes, if you three could just send me a message in the chat, that'd be great, just to confirm your email address, actually. Otherwise, I will, yeah, just to make sure we've got the right one. And we will be doing the other draws at the end. So.
Right, so I think now is time for the 10-minute break.
Yes, yes.
Good stuff. So, folks, after the 10-minute break, we'll be coming back. I'll be reading out the rules again, and then we'll have time for our, oh boy, 10-person Senate meeting. So you're going to want to settle in for that one. So, yeah, see you all in 10 minutes, all right?
Get some snacks, drink some caffeine, get ready.
Bonsoir, everyone. Come on back for the French portion of the debate. Could you imagine? Oh, man. I spring it on all of you that you have to do this in French. Oh, that'd be great. All right, so everyone come back, please. And by everyone, I mean the 10 candidates. Please turn on your cameras. I see candidate E. I see Agosti Moro. Korniashik. Oh. Oh, great. Yeah. Thank you, whomever is pinning cameras. I'll need that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Some more faces. Hell yeah. We'll wait for everyone to get pinned. Let me field the question now. Should we have French debates? I think that'd be fun. I couldn't hold them. I don't think that anyone at the Ubyssey could host them, but we could find someone.
I could.
Ooh, wait. I don't know if that, I think that might be a call. I don't think that you can. I think you can host it and be in it. But anyway.
I can.
Oh, Isabel. Sorry, I thought that was Ashana. Hell yeah.
Nice. I
That'll be
can
fun.
take the hosting away from you if
Wait.
you go off the rails. I'm allowed to do that. So
No, this is my claim to fame, please.
stay in line.
Damn it, I can't believe I'm getting moderated. Anyway, enough of that bit. Okay, everyone, welcome. Oh, it seems like there's only 8 people who are here, and then like 2 people are unpinned. Isabel, if it works better, maybe you can unpin me, and then have Meta and Burnham be pinned.
Okay, Mona's doing the pinning.
Too many people. Okay. That's
Can
unfortunate.
only go up to 9.
Boring.
Could we just pin one person who's talking, like one at a time?
Yeah, we could do that.
That might be easier, Mona. Okay.
Good stuff. Okay, I'll get started with the brass tacks since this is going to be a long one. So everyone settle in. Okay. So as a repeat of the rules, we're going to start off with our opening statements from everybody. 30 seconds for all of the questions. When I raise my arm, and I'll keep it up for like a couple of seconds until I see your eyes meet the camera-ish. And then that means you have 15 seconds. When I like twist my finger, you have a solid like 2, maybe 3 seconds. Finish your sentence, or else I'll start thanking you very aggressively. So after that, we have questions for everyone, which will be going down the line alphabetically and then reverse alphabetically, so on and so forth, in which you'll each get 2 minutes to answer. Those will be Ubyssey questions. Once it's time for audience questions, which audience, this is your first reminder to get your questions into Charlotte, who is currently in the chat. Just send her a message being like, here's my questions for the senators. They can be person specific or they can be Senate at large. So yeah, and for audience questions, each individual senator gets 1 minute to answer. Unless it's a like pointed question, then the pointed senator gets a minute to answer, and then I like ask anyone else if they want to say something, but you don't really have to. Yeah, and then after that we have hopefully we have time for at least 5 questions. Obviously, that's going to take up a little bit more time for the amount of humanity that will be on stage. But then at the end, we'll have 30 seconds closing for all of you to say goodbye and wish each other well and things like that. Oh, and there will be open debate for this one because we want to give you all the opportunity to say things. As I mentioned at the beginning, at the outset of this whole thing, please be respectful of each other and don't like take all the time. But there's a thin line there of like, it also is a debate. So like try to assert yourself. At the very least, turn on your mic and like, you know, if someone is saying something and I see that your mic is on, that indicates to me that like, oh, you're trying to get in there. It's not just like, I didn't get my time. Well, it didn't look like you ever wanted to say anything. So, you know, anyway. Right. And so then I'll let Mona try her best with the, what is it called? The pinning of mics and things like that. Yeah. Unmute mic to speak. If you're talking and you see like 3 other people with their mics on, off, their unmute off, then just like, you know, chill out, take a back seat, be conscious, just, you know, be nice to each other. Come on now. This is Zoom. All right. Anyway, we'll start off with the opening statements. Yes, that sounds great, Mona. Right. So now I need to get an alphabetical list of all of you. Right. Oh boy. Okay. So I think that it goes. We start with Agosti Moro. Yeah. Yeah. So Agosti Moro. It'll be Agosti Moro, then Burnham, then Bungu. No, Bungu, then Burnham. Oh boy. I'll call it out as we go along, but I got the first three already. So, Agosti Morrow, kick us off with your 30-second hello.
Perfect. Thanks. It's great to be here. My name is Danton. I'm running to be one of your student senators at large. Had the pleasure of serving 2 terms on the Senate thus far as the Commerce Student Senator. During that time, I've served on 5 standing committees and a number of other working groups, and I'm also currently serve as co-chairperson of the Student Senate Caucus. My platform includes advocating for systemic changes to Senate structure, pushing for improvements to the Senate student learning experience through appointment to the Teaching and Learning Committee, and continuing my work on reforming the Senate appeals process to address concerns of equity and fairness. Looking forward to the debate and hearing more from the other candidates. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Agosti Morrow. Candidate Bangu, go ahead. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, hi everyone, my name is Ashana and I'm running to be re-elected as your senator at large. Over the past year, I've had the honor of serving you as the co-chair of the Student Senate Caucus and the vice chair of the Budget Committee. And during this time, I drafted a holistic 3-year advocacy plan for the caucus called Senate 2023. I want to continue fighting for you by asking for an equity audit in the Senate, fighting for remote invigilation to be improved, Indigenous support and retention, experiential learning review, and climate justice. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Bangu. Moving on to candidate Burnham. You have your 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, folks. My name is Julia Burnham. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm excited to be here today running for re-election to the Ubyssey Vancouver Senate. I'm a graduate student in the Department of Educational Studies, and I currently serve my 2nd year as a senator. I've not only been a leader in the Student Senate Caucus as a previous co-chair in AMS VPAUA, but also a leader within the Senate, serving as the chair of the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Academic Diversity and Inclusion. I've got institutional knowledge and expertise to push my campaign commitments through and continue my mentorship of emerging student leaders. Happy to be here and looking forward to speaking more about my goals. Thanks.
Right on time. Thank you, candidate Burnham. Candidate Kentiller, I believe you're next. 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Kantiller, he, him, his. I'm a 3rd-year art student who has been involved in the AMS and the AUS previously. My platform pillars revolve around academic accessibility, a proactive post-COVID transition plan, student privacy, BIPOC representation in the Senate, and Senate transparency. Looking forward to expanding my platform as the debate rolls on. I encourage you to visit my website, votingman.ca. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidate Kentiller. Moving on to candidate Evans. Yeah, that's the alphabet. Go ahead. 30 seconds.
Thanks, Colin. Hi, everybody. My name is Cole, and I'm excited to be running for re-election as one of your student senators at large. I've had a great year this past year on the Senate. I also am the only student who's a chair of a Senate Standing Committee, as chair of the Senate Academic Building Needs Committee, where I'm super excited to do some more work this year as we talk about accessibility for buildings, getting prepared for our transition to hybrid learning in the fall, and also a lot of other platform points I'd love to talk to you about tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you, candidate Evans. Moving to candidate Ho. You have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm a 5th-year political science and Masters of Management student at Ubyssey. Previously, I've served in the AUS and right now as an AMS counselor and chair of the Advocacy Committee. I hope to extend the work established by senators, especially in the framework of Senate 2023, and also bring my own ideas and impacts on improving quality and resources for students. It focuses on 3 areas: transparency and academic-related resources, accessible, inclusive, and holistic learning, and reasonable and compassionate teaching.
That'll be the end. That'll be the end. Thank you, Matthew. Moving on to candidate Koyashi. 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. So hello, everyone, and thank you very much for being here. My name is Demir, and this year I'm running for the Senate and the Board of Governors. The main goal I'm pursuing is to advance the University of British Columbia to the 1st place among Canadian universities. Such goal sounds extreme, but not with my platform and my candidacy. Some of the main tools of achieving this goal include higher efforts in transparency and accessibility, Indigenous academic inclusion, and the establishment of a safe and sustainable plan to return our students back to the classes. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to your questions and our debate.
Thank you, Candidate Koyashi. Moving on to candidate Mehta. You have your 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, folks. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Shivani. Pronouns are she and hers. This past year, I've served as your AMS Associate Vice President Academic, and in this role, I've gained extensive knowledge about governance at Ubyssey. As an outsider to the Senate this year, it has been hard, but I've been fighting to pass a motion on limiting the use of proctorio, limiting the cost of learning materials, and implement changes to the exam hardship policy. My community involvement has given me not just the knowledge that I need to advocate for you in Senate, but also bridge the gap that currently exists between students and policy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, candidate Mehta. Moving on to candidate Sadhu. You have your 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Sorry, Sandu? Me?
Oh, Sandhu. Sorry, I miswrote you.
That's okay. Thank you to the AMS Elections Committee and the Ubyssey for making this event happen, and thank you to those joining us tonight. My name is Anisha Sandhu, and I'm running to bridge the gap between the Vancouver Senate and students and to ensure equity in the decisions made to navigate this unusual time. My experience as the LFS student senator has prepared me with the tools to effectively communicate with various Senate members to make our voices heard. Student advocacy is the most impactful when we work together. I'm committed to support my peers to help fulfill their platform goals as well.
Thank you, candidate Sandhu. I apologize for misspeaking. And rounding us out, candidate Yi, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is Georgia Yi, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here to talk about my platforms for Student Senator at Large. Having served as your VP Academic and University Affairs this past year, I've been able to tackle issues like remote invigilation, accessibility in the classroom, and the Climate Emergency Task Force. This next year, I want to tackle issues of affordability, equity, improving access to online and hybrid learning, the climate emergency, and creating a supportive community. I'm super excited to talk to you all about it. And for more information, you can visit Georgia Yi, vote Georgia Yi.
Thank you, candidate Yi. All right, cool. And somewhat unusually, I got a fact check for one of the opening statements. Candidate Evans, I believe you misspoke when you said that you're the only student chair committee. There are 3 student chair committee. You mean of the people running, probably.
No, I said current student of a Senate standing committee.
Oh, I apologize. I must have misheard. Anyway, so we've got a mispronunciation and a missed fact check out of the way. I'm the ultimate human. So moving on to our questions, and so we'll be starting from reverse alphabetical order. So candidate Yi, you'll be coming up first. And again, once we get through everyone, we will have time for open debate. So cool. Right. So your first question is, the Student Senate Caucus just released its goals for the new triennium. Which goals will you advocate for the most? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you for that. I think one of the goals that I want to be able to continue to further under the Senate 2023 document is advancing the policy on digital learning materials used for assessments. This is under my platform point of affordability, and this is something that I'm very passionate about in terms of continuing to improve the use of open educational resources at Ubyssey as well as being able to foreground student agency and affordability at Ubyssey as well. I think one of the key goals in the Senate 2023 document is also to be able to make this an enforceable policy as well. In terms of as the current principles for remote invigilation, for the current principles regarding the cost of digital learning materials is only principles, so it is only it is not formally enforceable. So we need to be able to take a proactive approach and to ensure that the implementation of this goal is being tackled very proactively as well.
Thank you, candidate Yi. Moving on to candidate Sandhu. You have your 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, from the Senate 2023 Student Senate Caucus goals, I would like to focus on the transition back into in-person learning and taking into consideration the different challenges will be faced. One being those who are immunocompromised and living with members who are immunocompromised, and how will we accommodate those folks who cannot come to campus when their programs are making things mandatory for them to show up, as well as how can we continue the positive outcomes from online learning, such as recorded lectures. This has been a great support for those whose learning styles are different than just being in a lecture hall and having that capability to go back and reflect on their studies. And yeah.
Thank you, candidate Sandhu. And as a note, anyone is able to ask me for a repeat of the question as we're making our way through the 10-person line. So moving on to candidate Mehta, you have your 2 minutes. Do you need a repeat?
No, I'm okay, thank you.
Good stuff. Go ahead.
So regarding the Senate 2023 document, the thing that speaks out to me the most, the project that I'm most passionate about is policy regarding exam hardship. This is something that I've done a lot of work on with the Advocacy Committee within the AMS, as well as with the Ombuds Office, the Center for Accessibility, and the Registrar's Office. And I hope that if elected as a senator at large, I will be able to finally push this policy forward and protect international students. Right now, there are no boundaries or parameters around supporting students that are in different time zones and being asked to write final exams at 3 o'clock in the morning. This is something that our school should not be waiting around to act on, and I'm really excited that if elected, I'll be able to vocalize this myself at these tables and ensure that international students' voices are being heard by their leadership, and we're putting things in place to protect them immediately and not years down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Mehta. Moving on to candidate Korniashik. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So, addressing the document with my campaign and my candidacy, I would like to focus very much on the international students and the hybrid learning, especially on the support for international students in our times. And it's kind of echoing Mehta's what Shivani said, but my platform extends a little bit more into explaining how we can implement a safe return to hybrid courses with providing support that international students need in both academically, mentally, and with any other personal circumstances that might come up. Another thing that I would like to also advocate for with my candidacy is Indigenous people's involvement in academic, and that's something that I would like to improve and add on to the document. Yeah, so constructing excellence together, I think that's my time, so thank you.
Thank you, candidate Korniashik. Moving to candidate Ho, you have your 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, so as a current co-op student and a student leader who has been involved in course-related experiential learning, particularly through the Center for Community Engaged Learning and through courses like Social 100, experiential learning under student learning is the goal that I'm most passionate about in Senate 2023. This is aside from the personal experiences that have had. I strongly believe that Ubyssey has not done enough to encourage experiential learning among faculty. This is partly due to the lack of an institutional vision on how this should be worked. This is also due to the lack of resources allowing students to know what opportunities they have. And I think faculty simply aren't incentivized to do so under current tenure promotions. And I think this is something that I really want to work towards. And I also want to add the fact that co-op programs haven't been reviewed since 2005. I've talked to students who have been told, due to how niche their programs are, they have to look for their own co-op placements. So I think in terms of equity and inclusion, I think a review is needed to improve the experiential learning experiences of students in Ubyssey.
Thank you, Kevin.
Time left?
What?
Did I have time left, or was it?
Yeah, you have 20 seconds left now. Go ahead if you want to say something.
Oh, and actually, I think like I said earlier, there's no centralized way for experiential learning opportunities for people to access, and at the same time, it's there's not enough. Although CISO has been included in the report that talks about experiential learning, more consultation with these is needed.
Thank you, Candidate Ho. Thank you. And moving to candidate Evans, just so that I can make sure that the video recording captures this. Candidate Evans did message the chat saying that he forgot that agenda is standing committee, and then my editors messaged me that right afterwards. So yeah, just a slight misspoke, but yeah, go ahead, candidate Evans. Do you need a repeat?
Yeah, can you repeat for me, Tyler?
I'm sorry?
So can you repeat for me, please?
Of course, yeah. If you can stand a little bit closer to your microphone, I think it's like doing a little bit of ducking when you start speaking.
Sorry, I'll try.
The question is, the Student Senate Caucus has just released its goals for the new triennium. Which goal will you advocate the most? Goal singular. 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Sounds good. Yes. Sorry on my misspoken. I definitely forgot that an agenda is a standing committee. I didn't mean to. Max doesn't deserve to be disrespected like that. So sorry, Max. But as far as what was released in the Senate 2023 document, a lot of members from Student Senate Caucus worked super hard on it this year, especially the co-chairs. I think for me, the one goal that I want to work on the most is the building accessibility review. Of course, as chair of the Senate Academic Abilities Committee, I'm in a position to be able to facilitate that and already have had some initial conversations around that review. So the plan would be to, once I hopefully am reelected, to sort of get the ball rolling on working with other stakeholders on campus to see whether we can execute something rather holistic when we look at evaluating what our academic facilities look like. And I think that that's something that is, super reasonable to be able to accomplish within a year. And, hopefully I can get the Senate Academic Buildings Committee a bit more involved in the, ongoing affairs of the Senate. Usually it's not one of those committees that comes to mind first when you think about sort of all the flashy ones like teaching and learning and academic policy, but, still important work to be done there. And, my goal is, hopefully being reappointed as chair would be to continue to build on the work that we're hoping to do and hopefully see some success there.
Robin, you're muted.
Damn it. Thought I could make it through all this. Thank you, candidate Evans. Candidate Cantiller, you have your 2 minutes. Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. One of the advocacy goals of Senate 2023 that I am really interested in is the fifth goal in terms of policy work, more specifically advocacy goal 5.4 interim examination hardships that attribute to policy J102. What I want to do, if I am hopefully elected to be a student senator at large, is to join the academic policy committee to advocate for reforming policy J102 in terms of having the 3 back-to-back exams. What constitutes as an examination hardship by having the 3 back-to-back exams within the span of 24 hours extended to a 48-hour period. Additionally, what I'm interested in advocating for is to advocate for the possibilities of creating a midterm hardship policy. A lot of students who I've talked to, one of my friends who I've talked to, in terms of midterm hardships, had 3 midterms within the span of 1 day, and that heavily affected his mental health and his capacity to carry on the momentum of going through classes. So I just want to open the conversations in the possibilities of establishing a policy like that. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Cantiller. It might have just been my audio, but I think you were just a little bit low. So if there's any way that you can maybe make your mic a little bit more sensitive, just so folks in the audience can hear all of your good words. Sorry, words. No adjectives allowed. Right, moving to candidate Burnham. You have your 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thanks. I just want to begin by saying that documents like Senate 2023 are really paramount to actually being able to move goals forward. And the work that our caucus this year did, in particular, Shauna and Shalea, who are the co-leads on this project, it's so instrumental to being able to accomplish goals. And I'm proud to have contributed to this document. I was really involved in the final stages of editing. And my one goal, because I know we're supposed to talk about one, is to move forward the work that I have put forward in my proposal for a permanent standing committee on academic diversity and inclusion in the Senate. When I was chair of the ad hoc committee, which had a 3-year tenure, we produced a final report, and we really realized we didn't have the capacity or resources or time within a 3-year period to be able to accomplish a lot of the very urgent work around equity that we need to be having in the Senate. So I have an entire report with all of these recommendations, one of them being a permanent structure. And after that, my vice chair and I, Alex Gonzalez, who is unfortunately not returning to the Senate this year, we got to work and we put together a proposal. The proposal that's included in Senate 2023 is a proposal that we've already submitted to the nominating committee, and we hope to be able to push through towards approval. What I am really excited in this next year is to be able to set up this standing committee for success. I am confident in my ability to push this through, and I want to ensure that we are creating a space in the Senate where all of the commitments that the institution has made towards anti-racism, towards the Indigenous strategic plan, the inclusion action plan, that they don't fall between the cracks, which is what we've noticed frequently when we have ad hoc committees that have all of these reports that they make. They spend many years diving into this work, making recommendations, and then there is no follow through. So I'm really excited with the potential of this goal. This has been a project that I have chaired. I wrote the final report. I co-authored this proposal, and I am really excited for the opportunity to finish this up this next year.
Thank you, Candidate Burnham. Moving to, actually, if one of the senators can drop the link to Senate 2023 in the chat just so that people have an idea. Sorry, I've got many things going on here. I can barely do the alphabet. Candidate Bungu, you're up next with your 2 minutes. Go ahead. You're muted. No, you're muted. You're muted.
Sorry.
No.
Yes. Okay. Can you repeat the question once more, please?
Positively. The Student Senate Caucus has just released its goals for the new triennium, now freshly available in the chat. Which goal, singular, will you advocate for the most? You have 2 minutes. Well, now minute 45.
Yeah, as somebody who led the preparation of this document, firstly, I'll say I'm immensely proud of the entire Student Senate Caucus for their contributions. It is hard for me to pick one goal, but maybe I'll say something I'm super passionate about, an equity audit. That is, I think, the first or second goal listed within the equity and inclusion section of the Senate 2023 document. I'm very passionate about all the academic policies under our Senate being reviewed with an equity and inclusion lens. And I think it's essential that we take these steps. Also, to be in line with the university's goals of actively working towards becoming an anti-racist institution. So that is something I'm particularly passionate about. I know you said singular, so I won't keep going on and on about more goals. It is hard for me to pick one since I was so involved in the creation of it. But let's just say the equity audit would be my #1 priority for now.
Thank you, Candidate Bungu. And rounding out with Candidate Agosi Moro, you have your 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I want to say first off, I'm committed to seeing all those goals in the document come to fruition. I mean, if I were to continue as co-chair of the Student Senate Caucus, I'll do everything I can to provide material support or committee assignments to my fellow senators who are looking to achieve goals on there. The one that I would focus on, which I know that no one else has talked about or has in their platforms, is reforms to the procedures of the Senate appeals committees. This is something that is not a very big ticket public issue, but it is such a big issue within the Senate. For those who don't know, the Senate is tasked with acting as the final appeals body on a variety of topics here at the university, including academic standing, academic and non-academic misconduct, and admissions. And during my time on the Senate, I've served on all 3 of those appeals committees and have come to realize as a result that the process is flawed. They face many shortcomings in terms of procedural fairness, natural justice, and equity and diversity issues. They significantly impact and put at a disadvantage international students, especially those who may not have English as a first language or are not aware of common law system. And I've done significant work on this during my time on the Senate, along with the law student senator. We presented a series of recommendations to the Senate as a whole of what needs to be changed. And as a result of that, accompanying during the triennial review of the Senate, we were able to get the establishment of an ad hoc committee to explore these recommendations and look into how these things can be changed, and as well whether more work is needed on this, specifically an external review. I'm committed to continue my work on that to seek reappointment to these committees. The current vice chair, who is the law student senator, has not returned to the Senate. I tend to seek the vice chairship for both of those to continue the work that I've been doing, because this changes the lives of students. There may not be very many students that come before these committees, but for those who do, they matter. And it is imperative that we have a fair process for every single student so that they can have their case heard fairly and not be put at a disadvantage for any reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Agosi Moro. Before we move into open debate, one rule I forgot to mention is I thank you for posting the links in the chat, but don't post your website in the chat. Not that anyone has, but if you do, I'll take away time from you today at the great debate, or I'll ask Isabel to kindly consider putting you in the penalty box. So don't do that. If somebody asks you, verbalize it. Say it out, like ubyssey.ca. Don't post it. Thank you. Anyway, moving on to the open debate portion. So we've messed around with the times a little bit, so we have 4 minutes for open debate for each of these things. And so, yeah. Candidate Cantler, I see you have your hand raised. I won't I'll be trying to intervene here and there, but again, it is a matter of kind of everyone trying to be a little bit equitable with each other and understanding how bad it looks if you take all the time to yourself. So keep that in mind. Again, 4 minutes for each thing, so there's a minute apiece plus some change. But anyway, so yes, the open debate will start now on the question of the new triennium goals and yeah, all of those things related to that. So 4 minutes, go ahead.
I just had a question really quickly.
Oh.
If a candidate does have a question, do we raise our hands for you, or
if you have a question, generally in previous debates, it's just been that like you ask the question and like direct it at someone, try to keep it like, you know, within 15.
No, I mean if we have a question for you about something.
Oh, a question for me?
Regarding the procedure of this debate, should we put our hands?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, you can absolutely raise your hand and ask me about that, but only for like procedural questions. I can't. Anything else? Yeah, 4 minutes. Go ahead.
All right. If I can start off, I just wanted to make a point of clarification because I did name 2 goals I had, and I was just supposed to name 1. So out of those 2 goals that I mentioned, the one that I really want to focus on, so the top priority is the reform on policy J102 on examination hardships. The following year is going to be a very interesting pilot year because of the passing of the fall reading break and where our 16 days of examination are shortened down to 12. So I wanted to proactively make sure that students will not have hardships in the terms of the increased likelihood of having back-to-back-to-back exams, and that's what I want to do through the Academic Policy Committee.
One of the things that I wanted to pick up from what Dante had said around having unique goals here. I've noticed a lot of folks have goals that would involve needing to be on the Teaching and Learning Committee and the Academic Policy Committee. These are bright and shiny committees, but as a result, only 3 student senators out of the 18 will actually get appointments to those committees. One of them on the academic policy must be a graduate student as well. So in noting that so many campaigns focus so heavily on work that only a few of us will actually be able to undertake, I was hoping that candidates with emphasis on these areas could speak to some of the things that they would be excited to work on in other areas of the Senate that are still important, but not necessarily the bright and shiny pieces.
Yeah, it would be great if I could just jump in here. And as well, I'm kind of similar to Emmanuel. I also mentioned 2 topics, but now I would like to emphasize 1 topic, and it's actually a different one to what the previous candidate was talking about. And this topic, the Indigenous Strategic Plan, I believe that it's very interesting how we have 10 times less Indigenous students on campus than international students. And I believe that this issue should be a lot more talked about and discussed.
Yeah, I really agree with Demir here about placing heavy emphasis on Indigenous student involvement. That's why something else that I'd really like to focus on within the Senate 2023 document would be the retention and specific goals. When I say I want to support Indigenous students, I'd like to create tangible numerical admissions targets that will focus on retention of Indigenous students and also have better outreach to Indigenous students in rural communities and ensuring that we're properly publicizing the Langara Ubyssey transfer program. That's just something I'd like to add. And apart from that, just speaking to the Senate 2023 involvement of, I just like an answer to what Julia just asked from the people who really place an emphasis on academic policy and teaching and learning committee goals.
I'd like to respond to Julia and Ashana's request to speak on people who are interested in teaching and learning academic policy. Aside from that, I'm interested in improving our Senate transparency by implementing a centralized platform for the Student Senate Caucus, which I'm currently in the works and doing research for on what would be the best form in doing that, so that it's a place where we can post essential updates and students to ask questions and voice their concerns. Because I think a frequent question a lot of candidates have gotten is, what is the Senate? So that I do not make it onto the Teaching and Learning or the Academic Policy Committee, that is what I'm committed to.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Ishana's point. When asked about where we're putting in the documents, it's actually in a meeting minutes that were shared that are 450 pages long. If a student was interested in discovering more about their student senator's work, or if they wanted to read the 2023 document, they'd have to scroll through this. And I think that we need to work on making it more accessible to share the amazing work that's been done this year.
And that'll bring us to the end of the open debate portion. So it seems like there's a couple of different avenues that people are taking here. I think that maybe the best one that, I don't know, can people see when other people raise their hands in this? Like, could you see that? Like, dang it. All right. Oh boy. Okay. How's it? Oh, Will says yes, but people say no. Intriguing. Okay. So how about this? When you have something to say, and it's like a direct, like it's a point that you want to make, you raise your hand, and I can see who's been raising their hand and marinating for a little while, and I can be like, I jump in and be like, hey, someone wants to say something. However, if one of those people who raises their hand like directs a question, obviously that person gets to jump in. I don't know if any of you have been in those classes where they do like the one and the twos. If we gotta go there, I'm more than happy to go there. But yeah, I apologize, and it will be noted that all of you have been playing very fairly with all of this, but it's just like, as someone said yesterday, open debate has always been a mess. It's even messier on Zoom, where loudest truly is first. Anyway, so moving on into the next question, we'll be doing the hand system, which I'll explain again afterward. Right, so from here, we're going to start with Augusti Moro and go alphabetically. So the next question is, and you have 2 minutes to answer, is, has the Senate done enough to support Indigenous students and faculty? And what is a tangible way to improve this? Tangible is the key word there. So, Augusti Mora, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'll start off first by saying absolutely not. The Senate has not done enough. But that's true for most things at Ubyssey, whether it be before the faculties or the Senate. And I think one thing is the Senate's support for the implementation of the Indigenous strategic plan is key. How that is going to be done really depends on the different recommendations that stem from it, and also how the Senate can be involved with that. For example, something that I campaigned on as part of my board platform is the board to set tangible hiring targets for Indigenous academics, and also the ability for student awards, for dedicated student awards, increasing those for those who are Indigenous. That's not something that the Senate technically has power over, and you'll often find that what the Senate doesn't have direct power over, they can contribute to. So, for example, if we are going, so the Senate does have the budget committee, which is able to advocate for different initiatives during the budget creation process, but the board ultimately has the final say. What the Senate can do is provide, first off, the moral support, but also other ways of tangible support. If we are going to be expanding the number of academics that we have on campus, we're going to need office spacing to house that. And something like the Academic Building Needs Academic Buildings Committee can advocate for that when they meet with the Budget Committee and other areas on the Senate. And I did time on the Academic Building Needs Committee, and I know that those were discussions that came up frequently, is how can we provide infrastructure for the expansion of campus. In terms generally, I think we need to encourage more Indigenous students to get involved should they choose so. We talk a lot about, and this came up last night at the Board of Governors debate, the different, balancing the need for incumbents with institutional knowledge, for also with people with diverse backgrounds who are looking to get involved. And I want to commit to supporting any student that does want to get involved from any background that could bring a new and fresh perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Augusti Moro. Candidate Dungu, you have your 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing up that question. I think I touched on that a little bit in the open debate. I am very, very strongly keen and passionate about introducing numerical, tangible admissions targets for admitting Indigenous students into our university. I don't think that we as a university can claim that we're committed to reconciliation unless we're actively making the efforts and taking, like you said, emphasis on tangible steps to ensure that we have more Indigenous voices on campus. Of course, we need to amplify the current Indigenous voices, but that also means increasing representation. And that doesn't mean we just expect Indigenous students to come to us. We have to go and actively ensure that we are having good outreach. We're reaching out to students who are in rural communities, that we're making efforts to publicize programs like the transition program that I mentioned, the Ubyssey Langara program. And it is so essential that we stop taking performative action as an institution and go ahead and actually act on our words when we say. And I know that if reelected, and I am committed to making sure that I continue fighting with Indigenous students and that they're not facing an uphill battle trying to be heard at every table and every issue. And again, when I talk about performative action, that's seen in consultation as well. Why are Indigenous students or groups like the Indigenous Committee sent documents just afterwards, after creating a document, or being like, oh, here's a list of things we came up with, now we're consulting with you, are you okay with it? I don't think that's all right. that's why in Senate 2023 as well, Shaleya Muniz and I, we consulted with the Indigenous committee before creating our priorities. So yeah, and another thing would be the self-identification factor. I know I've heard accounts of people misusing that self-identification measure in admissions, the application. So I'd like to have a review of that as well. I'll stop talking before you shut me up.
Thank you, candidate Bangu. I prefer to think of it as thank very loudly.
Yes.
Moving to candidate Bangu. Sorry, candidate Burnham. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thanks. I mean, Dante already said it about the Indigenous Strategic Plan, but I really want to emphasize here that when we, as settlers up here on the stage, are talking about what the Indigenous community needs, we really need to be looking to documents like the Indigenous Strategic Plan that were developed by the Indigenous community at Ubyssey and explicitly outlines what the Indigenous community at Ubyssey had decided were their priorities. So my role in this is to see this plan that has been widely consulted and pushed forward by Indigenous advocates at the university and say, what can I do in my power to make sure that everything in this plan is held to account? One of the pieces here is around the lack of endorsement from the Senate. If we want to be holding the Senate accountable to this Indigenous strategic plan, we need to have this plan endorsed by the Senate, which is something that has not yet occurred. One of the familiar things we did with the Inclusion Action Plan was through the Ad Hoc Committee on Academic Diversity and Inclusion, we took a look at the plan in depth, went through all the different goals, and looked at the mandates of every single committee and said, okay, you know, this goal goes to this committee, this is what is in your scope, and we had that information out for folks. So that's something that I hope that the Ad Hoc Committee, or the permanent committee that I'm hoping to have happen can do and say, listen, these are all the different goals in the plan, and this is what is within your responsibility, and this is how you can act on it. So that's one of the things that I think is important. There's an accountability piece that is not quite there yet that we need to improve. But furthermore, I think there's a lot around curriculum and research in this plan that is really important for us to keep in mind as we consider our roles as the top level of governance here. There's a lot of work that can be quite tokenistic as the universities move towards indigenizing. And I really want to make sure that we are thinking about by and for Indigenous communities and our curriculum proposals and our research rather than research on Indigenous communities. And that's one of the values that I will hold dear in this process.
Thank you, candidate Burnham. Moving to candidate Kentler. You have your 2 minutes. Do you need a reading?
Yes, please.
Gotcha. The question is, has the Senate done enough to support Indigenous students and faculty? And what is a tangible, emphasis on that, way to improve this? You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
More so on what Julia brought up with this ISP, or Indigenous student, or Indigenous on the Indigenous strategic plan. My apologies. One specific action that I read up and that I really liked was Action 5 under Goal 1, in where it would review university legislation in terms of the University Act to find inconsistencies in accordance with documents such as UNDRIP and the TRC's 94 calls to reconciliation. And what I want to do in terms of tangible action is to table a motion in which for the possibilities of adopting the Indigenous strategic plan in the terms of reference of the teaching and learning, academic policy, and the curriculum committee. Now that is a big thing to do, and accomplishing that is within a one year span is not feasible, but like beginning to work on systematic change, I feel like tabling that as of next year can be a tangible step in accomplishing that.
Thank you, candidate Kentler. Moving to candidate Evans. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think to answer your question plain and simple, Pavan, from the start, the answer is no. I don't think the Senate's done enough. You know, I think that from a student Senate caucus perspective, I know a lot of us have been disappointed for this year, just sort of the lack of leadership that the Senate as a body as a whole has sort of taken on plans like the Indigenous Strategic Plan. Because it sometimes feels a lot like it's the students that are always super enthusiastic about these things, and you don't really get that same reception from everybody else on the Senate. So I think there's a lot of work that we can do to make sure that, you know, the ISP and all the work that went into it is prioritized at the Senate. And I think too, like, just making sure that it's not just another, like, making sure that the Senate embraces these plans a bit more, and whether it's the ISP or the Inclusion Action Plan, like, it's sort of the same old, same old. So I think that's a bit of a cultural thing too that we need to change at the Senate level and make sure that we're pushing for these plans to be taken more seriously. As far as specific actions that I think the Senate needs to sort of pursue, I forget which section of the ISP this is, but I know there's a section with a bunch of action items on it about recruiting Indigenous peoples to campus. We had a similar conversation about Black faculty at the last Senate meeting. It's important, a lot of students probably haven't even had a single course with an Indigenous faculty member. And so, we can talk about, recruiting Indigenous students to UBC, and that's, fantastic. We also need to make sure that those support networks are in place and that we have those individuals who are able to, knowledge keep at this institution. So, I think that the Senate needs to take a significant leadership role when we're talking about, how we're recruiting faculty and diverse faculty to the university to, sustain the work that we're doing.
Thank you, candidate Evans. Moving to candidate Ho, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, so the short answer is no. The Senate is not doing enough to support Indigenous. What was the question again? Sorry.
All right, that's 15 seconds of your time gone, but I'll give you the question again. Has the Senate done enough to support Indigenous students and faculty, and what is a tangible, emphasis on tangible, way to improve this? You have 1:45 left.
Yeah, so basically, Senate has not done enough to support Indigenous students and faculty. And I think the main point is, from my perspective, is that, yes, I really appreciate that, we have the, we have the IAP, and at the same time, we also, Senate 2023 has also addressed, the need to include Indigenous voices. But at the same time, what I'm seeing is a lack of intersectionality between, what we're trying to hope to work for in order to support Indigenous students and faculty, and the other goals that have been identified Senate 2023 and other documents. Particularly, I think I point to goals 7 and 8 of the Indigenous Strategic Plan, particularly to support tools for success and holistic system of support. And I think this is something that UBC has not been doing enough to address this problem. And I think, and especially, when you're looking at documents such as like Senate 2023, you don't see enough ways to make sure that Indigenous students and faculty are supported by, say, for example, like expanding hybrid education and making that accessible for, Indigenous students in particular. If they're living in rural areas, what is UBC doing to make sure that, they get resources to, access learning, even though they're coming from rural communities? It's not enough to, just publicize that, hey, we have a program and we want to increase admissions numbers. But, I think, in making sure that it includes Indigenous people and making the support structures like library committee, lending materials.
Thank you, Candidate Ho. Thank you, Candidate Ho. Moving to Candidate Korniashik. Do you need a repeat of the question?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Stuff. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
So, okay, thank you. So the direct answer is definitely no, and I have mentioned that as well yesterday in that debate for Board of Governors. Our fight with racism and other forms of discrimination will benefit from starting with the enhancement of our relationship with Indigenous communities, students, and staff. We have 10 times more international students at UBC than Indigenous students. And I'm not saying that we should start decreasing international students' admissions, but rather we must increase the amount of Indigenous students' admissions. The Indigenous Strategic Plan does not address this issue, and that should be enough to make some conclusive decisions. Therefore, with my candidacy, I propose 2 times increase of Indigenous applications for 2021-2022. And this can be done through first creating an appearance in schools with mostly representatives of Indigenous communities. This will allow students to make a connection to university and set goals. 2, lowering admissions barriers, making presentations and encouraging within communities. create a large support group program to assist Indigenous students in academic and social matters when they do get admitted. This must be accompanied by an increase of racial discrimination awareness, both on campus and very important for our time on the social media platforms and the web. Inequality quite often starts from unknowledgement of other social groups, and therefore, in order to eliminate prejudice, bias, and/or white supremacy, we must start from diversifying our own student body. And even also going, I just wanted to mention about the recruitment plan for Indigenous people that's mentioned in the Indigenous strategic plan. I also believe that some small steps are super helpful and tangible. Something like increased training so that in the future those recruiters and those employees can have a higher chance of getting another job. So that's my time, and thank you.
Thank you, candidate. Thank you, candidate Korniashik. Moving to candidate Mehta. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
May I have the question repeated, please?
No worries. It'll be, has the Senate, not the Student Senate, has the Senate done enough to support Indigenous students and faculty? And what is a tangible, emphasis on tangible, way to improve this? You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So no, the Senate has not done enough to support Indigenous scholarship and knowledge in the community within the Ubyssey framework. But beyond this, I think that we need to be supporting the other departments and units that also support Indigenous scholarship, particularly at our school. I think some tangible things that we need to be working towards are, for example, the Aboriginal Undergraduate Research Mentorship Program that they have at the University of British Columbia Okanagan campus, and they don't have at the UBC Vancouver campus. And as an individual with research experience myself, I know how impactful it is to have a mentor who resembles your background and represents the possibilities that you have in your future. It's really a different experience, and I hope that a lot of our Indigenous students will be able to receive that support from this school. The second thing is Indigenous scholarship needs to be empowered a lot more with regards to open education. UBC Press has their own Indigenous scholarship kind of Raven space, which is responsible for open publishing. This is something that we need to be talking about a lot more, because the more familiar we are, the more that we include Indigenous scholarship and Indigenous excellence in our conversations, we are breaking down the barriers that are previously there. The third thing is the Indigenous community of students. In my experience as a collegiate advisor, I've worked very closely with the Indigenous Students Collegium. This is part of the Longhouse, and it is a part of our campus physical space that needs to be reopened as soon as possible in a very safe way to ensure that Indigenous students have a place where they can connect with one another and feel safe, welcomed, and that they are able to progress through their degrees knowing that there's designated areas for them to network and build those friendships on campus. The last piece is microaggression training, which I think is very important for us to ensure that the faculty members, racialized faculty members, particularly of the Indigenous communities, are not feeling as though they are one of the only people in their team that are able to share this experience. It's rather something that the administration acknowledges and works towards making better.
Thank you, Mehta. Moving to Kenneth Sandhu. Do you need to repeat?
No, I'm okay, thank you.
Good stuff. You have your 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. No documents come to the Senate for endorsement like the Indigenous Strategic Plan, but outside of this endorsement, there's a lack of any action to further endorse it. I echo Julia's response. I am not in a position to say what's needed for our Indigenous community. A tangible way would be consulting with the Indigenous Strategic Plan and drafting motions for the Senate standing committees that support the strategic plan goals. And I believe this might be the best pathway to getting it into Senate and having some support, because given the dynamics within the Senate, I believe when it's coming from the committee, it can have what are the words? It can be viewed in a better light than perhaps coming from just one member, and it amplifies the voice. So I think a tangible thing I can take on my own platform is whichever committees that I do end up on, should I rejoin the Student Senate Caucus, is I will take the time to reflect, to review the Indigenous Strategic Plan, to make recommendations on motions to be submitted to the Senate through the committees I will sit on.
Thank you, candidate Sandhu. And candidate Yi, take us home. Do you need a repeat?
I think I'm good. Thank you. Absolutely. I think the Senate must do more to engage with Indigenous communities. The key throughout all of this is co-creation with Indigenous communities and working directly with them. The Indigenous Strategic Plan is a fantastic Indigenous-led plan. I also agree with the comments made previously about putting tangible metrics on recruiting Indigenous faculty and students, but we also need to put a heavy emphasis on retention so as not to tokenize the community and be able to create that community and support for the students, which includes increasing awards for Indigenous students and former youth in care, as brought up before, collaboration with the Indigenous collegia. Some other tangibles also include expanding the awareness of the Ubyssey Langara program. Ubyssey Okanagan has its own bridging program that I believe that we can leverage to lower the barriers to recruiting and retaining Indigenous students as well. As also brought up, amending the Indigenous self-identification program so that it is community-led rather than based on documentation or based on government documentation, and also more based on the community. I think, as also brought up, I think a key part of addressing this within the academic sphere is also decolonizing access to research and scholarship and Indigenous knowledge through open access and open scholarship as well. Indigenous students and academics often face paywalls to their own cultural groups, and so I think this is really organized as well.
Thank you, candidate Yi. Right, so that brings us to the end of the good Lord. All right, you people already raising your hands. So just as a note, I will be so we'll be doing the hands up thing. So put your hand up and I'll be able to, sorry, so there's people who have their hands up right now. If you go into the participants tab in your Zoom thing, can you see that their hands are up? Yeah, okay. I think that's temporal. I think it like shows the person who did it first at the top. So yeah, we'll try to respect that. If there's a small n, so if it's obviously way off, then I'll intervene and ask people to switch around. But anyway, put your hand up if you have something to say, and don't take up too much time. There's plenty to talk about for this, obviously, but the question for this open debate is supporting and support for and engagement with Indigenous students and faculty at Ubyssey by the by the Senate. So go ahead. You have 4 minutes. Agosti Moro, you can go first.
Thank you. I have a question for candidate Cantelier. You mentioned Goal 1, Action 5 of the ISP, which talks about, of course, looking at the University Act with other partners and seeing how it might contradict documents such as the Truth and Recreation Commission of Canada's calls to action. But what you mentioned as a result might fall under some other goals. Changing the terms of reference of certain committees might fall under some of the other actions under that goal. I'm wondering specifically if you can speak on what you do with regards to the University Act, because that's something the university has no control over. It's the law. Any amendments to that would have to be through an act of the legislature of BC. How would you go about doing that, especially since the government tends to listen not to the universities, and if they do, to voices from the Board of Governors? I'm just curious.
My apologies, Dante, but can you repeat the question again?
Yes, very simply, you talked about Action 5, which talks about looking at inconsistencies in the University Act. The response that you mentioned has to do more with the other actions in the goal. I'm asking especially about Action 5, and given that the University Act is an act of Parliament of the BC Legislature and would have to be amended as such by them, what will you specifically as a student senator to move that along?
What I would do as a student senator to move forward Goal 5, Goal 5 in the Indigenous Strategic Action Plan, is, like, again, my apologies if I mixed up with the committee with the requirements of or the specific goals of overlapping goals in the strategic action plan. But the point still remains that what I want to do is like
Wrap it up, Chancellor.
Okay. Yeah. I want to start to institutionally change how UBC approaches Indigenous reconciliation, and that is by adopting the Indigenous Strategic Action Plan in the terms of reference. And I want to continue to do that, and in the three committees of the Teaching and Learning Curriculum Committee and the Academic Policy Committee. Thank you.
I'm just going to jump in on a different topic. Again, on the topic of recruiting both Indigenous faculty and students, and Georgia kind of stole what I was thinking about as we got halfway through there, so she got a head start on me. But I think we have to be very careful when we're talking about hitting targets. Not to tokenize, Indigenous people as just numbers on a paper. When we're talking about hitting enrollment targets, when we're talking about doubling enrollment, when we're talking about that, we need to create special programs for faculty. Like, we don't need any of these things. There is a bunch of, people who are qualified, to take on these faculty goals. We don't need to create these sort of very tokenistic, performative, approaches to this. I think that, going off of what, Georgia mentioned is, we need to be able to develop holistic approaches to this that are, based on how are we actually retaining these people and encouraging them to come to the university rather than just trying to hit targets, which really just makes ourselves feel better at the end of the day and doesn't actually do anything meaningful.
I think if I can just respond to what Cole just said, I think it's really important that we don't understate the importance of accountability. And when I say that we need to set numerical targets for retention and admission for Indigenous students, I mean that there have been too many people claiming that we're going to increase voices, increase representation, but they have not been accountable. So let's not understate the data and understate accountability when it comes to acting for Indigenous students.
It's also important.
I'm so sorry. Oh boy, this isn't working either. Come on now. Okay, so there's something else we can do. I don't think I'll be able to get it for this one, but there is the one where you can ask another person a question. I think you have it's a whole thing. I'll look into something better to do for the great debate. I really apologize that this is not working out as well. Actually, wait, no, yeah, I can give another minute. So Matthew, you were at the beginning, and Burnham, you were about to speak. So yeah, I'll give you both 30 seconds to kind of say something. I apologize again that this is all on the fly, but yeah. So Matthew, you have 30 seconds, and then after that, Burnham.
Yeah, I guess it was more of a question, but I really wanted to ask of the sitting senators whether if it's an oversight on their part that elements of the Indigenous Strategic Plan aren't reflected in other goals of Senate 2023, or are they really confined by the structure of the document that it only has to be mentioned in that particular goal of the document?
If I can just respond to that, we are volunteers who are creating this document, and we were very specific, and the goals that are included in there under the Indigenous Student Support section are from directly the Indigenous Committee. So we've tried to make it under the scope of the Senate and student-centered, and of course the Indigenous Strategic Plan is important, but when we're consulting with the Indigenous Committee and taking their recommendations, that's what's in the document.
Thank you, Candidate Bungu. Nice and snappy, just like that. Okay, Candidate Burnham, finally, it's your turn.
I was just going to add to speak to Cole's comments about specific targets and understanding that those targets are an important piece of the puzzle, especially when general equity-related hiring targets that are quite broad, those only seek to benefit white women most of the time at the end of the day. So having specific pieces like the Black faculty piece, like Indigenous targets is going to be really important, but the retention is as well.
Thank you. Okay, and yeah, I think everyone who had their hand up had a chance to. Oh, Georgia, you didn't have a chance. Okay, Georgia, you get first crack at it next time around. Mamma mia. All right, so moving on into the much more structured the question part. So the last question for this, and everyone has 2 minutes. We'll be starting with Candidate Yi. Right? Yeah, we'll be starting with Candidate Yi. is the question is as follows. Senate has transparency and communications issues aplenty. How would you work to connect students with the body and share what it's working on with students? And I don't want general, things about, oh, we'll do Facebook. I want specifics about how you connect it with the body as well as the Student Senate Caucus and what you would do that's unique to work with students. So, Candidate Yi, you have 2 minutes.
Absolutely. And I think, for one, addressing the piece around, we'll tackle Facebook or we'll tackle like Twitter or like create more infographics. I do think that has a very essential role, but I think we need to build out a comprehensive communication framework for the Senate as well. As a lot of people at this table have already brought up, a lot of students are already like, what is the Senate? And I think that creating that entry point of that every student will be able to, understand what the Senate is, or that they have access to information, is through establishing, this is one consistent source of information that you can get, publicizing who are the student senators on one centralized like web page, whether it's the AMS website or whether it's on the Student Senate or on the Senate website under the Ubyssey calendar website, and then different like contact information for these people. Ubyssey has a directory as well for faculty and staff as well. So I think it is also very important to have that information for student senators and faculty senators alike, so that people, if they have a concern that they wanted to bring to the Senate, that they can also be able to contact their elected representative as well. In terms of this communication framework, I think it's also important to index all the connecting bodies from the Senate. So at the tables of the ADA table, which is the Associate Dean's Academic Table, the Dean's tables, the tables that various students also sit on as well. So I think it's really key to be able to establish a workflow of where the information.
Thank you, Candidate Yi. Cool. Moving to Candidate Sandhu. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Sorry, can you just quickly repeat the question?
No worries. The question is, Senate has transparency and communication issues. How would you work to connect students with the body, not just the Student Senate Caucus, but the body itself, and share what it's working on with students? And again, not just Facebook and things like that. So yeah, you have 2 minutes.
I'm going to begin with with what I have done before what would I do. So what I have done as the LFS US Senator is when we were presented with the possibility of extending the winter break, as soon as I could share that with students, I did immediately on the LFS US Instagram page, because during my term I'm there to represent the LFS undergraduate students, and I understood that wasn't going to capture all students. So as soon as I could, I released a survey to all students outlining what this motion entailed and how they felt about it, to make a vote that represented those students. And what I'm currently working on and what I will continue to work on is find what is the best place to centralize this information. It costs money to have a website, so making sense, does it make sense to put it on the AMS website or the Senate website? Outside of that, something tangible that we could do is what we're looking at now is potentially Instagram. That seems to be the most popular student social media, but I'm still trying to conduct research on, for example, incoming first-year students, what platforms do they communicate on? Because at the end of the day, we can choose something, but it matters what we choose. Is that going to get the student traffic? And yeah, that's my response.
Thank you, Candidate. Thank you, Candidate Sandhu. Moving to Candidate Mehta. You have 2 minutes. Do you need a repeat?
No, thank you.
Good stuff. Go ahead.
I think when it comes to communication, a huge piece of that is, as Anisha spoke about, connecting with undergraduate societies. You know, our faculty senators have the opportunity, not according to the University Act, as I was reminded a few days ago, but they take that responsibility upon themselves to connect with their undergraduate societies that they represent. They spend the time at council and they network with the other student executives and student leaders. And by building these relationships, they're able to strengthen their advocacy and their ability to bring forward student concerns and student stories to the forefront. Another piece about this platform is, as I agree, there are so many complexities about the way we can approach this. And my experience as an orientation leader this past year has indicated to me that platforms are changing so rapidly, it is not possible for us to use social media sustainably. One day it'll be Facebook, and then Instagram, and then Discord, and it just goes on and on. And the best way to approach a situation like this is to advocate the university to support student senators in paying for a website. It's like $17. All of us have campaigned with using websites. It's not a huge investment, but it makes a huge impact on the student experience. This is a sustainable answer to your question because a lot of students, the student senators this past year, have been posting about winter break on their personal platforms. What if I don't feel comfortable following a student senator on their personal platform? I shouldn't have to go through these types of channels in order to gauge information about what my student senators are planning on doing. The second piece to that is winter break is obviously a very popular topic as a lot of people are looking forward to getting this break passed. What about the more complex issues, just like Dante was discussing earlier about appeals? These are important, and I think it's our responsibility, if elected as student senators, I would take upon myself to fight for a clear, sustainable channel of communication to make sure students are able to see these resources and engage with all aspects of the Student Senate's responsibility and not just things that are most popular at the moment. Thank you.
And you can admit that one of my news editors, Charlotte, has very lovingly put the question into the chat. So yeah, for anyone for your reading pleasure and for the audience. So right, next up we have candidate Korniashik. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So the most important job of a representative to the Senate is to properly collect available information about students' preferences and deliver those needs and wishes to the larger discussion. It's the job, it's the goal, it's one of the biggest challenges as well. So my platform's main focus is to understand and gather students' voices. Many before me have been too busy with personal dreams and goals while in this position. And as a candidate for student representative, and if elected, I will establish a new medium of information exchange, or better say, a more improved medium of information exchange such that it oversees the delivery of information content and gathering of data related to students' preferences and wishes. Some examples of that include, just to be tangible, reorganization of the website and content organization, as one of the candidates previously mentioned. In order to find the Senate 2023 document, you have to scroll through more than 100 pages, which is not a good thing. Doesn't point to anything good. Secondly, we can active involvement on Twitter, introducing new policies and decisions, feedback. That is all the ongoing. However, a more structured content approach is needed. Then monthly meetings with I said 7 most representative groups of students to gather feedback on the job Senate is doing. Of course, that's very interchangeable, but I do believe that a monthly basis, one-on-one meetings are needed, and it's not too effort-consuming. So collecting concerns, and then importantly, personal connection to the student body, strong presence on social media, and being an international student, I understand how communication often lacks volume and content. I haven't gotten a lot of information throughout my 3 years at university. I would always have to do the research myself. And as a current marketing team lead at AMS.
Thank you, Candidate Korniashik.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving to, we've got Candidate Ho up next. Do you need to repeat?
I think I can see the
Oh yeah.
chat. So
right. Yeah. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, so my answer has 2 parts. So firstly, I think a lot of the transparency and communication issues is really structural, especially in regards to the secretariat and clerking. You just need to look at the Ubyssey Senate site and look under like meeting minutes. And the last available PDF minutes is from September 2020. Whereas I see a lot of candidates have platforms that want to expand, like meeting minutes of committees or other things like that. But I think one main issue that has to be addressed is the very basic structural and complicated issues, behind the release of such information. We don't want to end up with minutes going, the last available minutes being from like the last decade. Exaggeration, so don't backtrack. Another thing is, as senators, my second part is, as senators, I think we need to be a lot more visible and talk with people and let people know what Senate can do. This stems from my previous, from one of my last previous personal experiences this year due to like Zoom teaching. Someone from BIE, along with some other people from other faculties, have informed me that instructors were planning to organize classes on Remembrance Day, which was a statutory holiday. And personally, what I did was I talked with my local arts student senator, who then reflected the issue to Senate and made sure that classes weren't happening on a day like that, even though they've moved on to Zoom. And I think as someone who knows how advocacy works, and Senate is one of the this relates to Senate, I think we need students, more students to actually know this is what we do, and these are some of the more tangible things that we connect students with, because these are some of the things that we can do.
Thank you, candidate Ho. Right on time. Candidates Sandhu and Yi, I see you have your hands up. Is it a question about format or something? What's up? Okay.
Oh, no, it's just anticipatory.
Oh, come on. We're not even halfway through the speakers list. All right, come on now, y'all. Moving to candidate Evans. You have your 2 minutes. Go ahead.
I think it's tough about these debates. Everybody just steals my points before it gets to me down the lineup. But Matthew's exactly right. We need to get back to basics. I think when it comes to this, like, yeah, it's great to talk about websites and social media and whatever, but if you look, like Matthew said, if you look at the Senate website, the last time there were updated meeting minutes from the Senate was, like Matthew said, September 2020. Committee minutes are even more dismal. I took a quick look, and I can't even find committee minutes from 2020 at all, period, on any of the committee sites. It might be around somewhere, but I can't. I mean, I'm on the Senate and I can't find them. So I think like we need to get back to basics about making sure that materials are published in a way that's accessible, in a way that's consistent, and there's already a university governance structure that's doing a relatively good job of this, and that's the Board of Governors. We talk about the Board of Governors website all the time in student governance circles about how it's pretty good. They have all the meetings there, they have all the materials, they have linked to live streams. All the materials for each meetings are laid out very distinctly, so you can navigate to them easier. When we're talking about committees and like presentations that are made to certain committees on things, like I can't find those presentations ever if I'm a student because they don't exist on the website. So I think we need to sort of, as a student Senate caucus, push the Senate office to take, their consolidation and display of materials and minutes and, from a transparency standpoint on the Senate website, much better. Because again, we talk about, what the Student Senate Caucus is doing to engage people better, but I think the focus should be more initially on the basics of what the Senate office in general is doing to engage the community as a whole first.
Thank you, candidate Evans. Moving to candidate Cantler. You have 2 minutes. Do you need to I guess you don't need to repeat. Never mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. Just to add on the transparency issues of the Senate and adding on top of what Matthew and Cole said, as a newcomer, I wanted to, in trying to do my research for the Senate, I wanted to look at the Senate committee minutes from the Academic Policy Committee and the Teaching and Learning Committee. The Teaching and Learning Committee, I can't find any meeting minutes at all, just the meeting schedule. And as for the Academic Policy Committee, I think the last post was in 2019, which is a shame because a lot of progress was done with that committee in this winter. What I want to push for is different from the candidates because it does focus on social media. But a reason for why I'm in favor of pushing toward more social media outreach is that last year I've experienced with student outreach. Last year, as the second year representative of the AUS, I joined up with Charlotte Gilby, the previous art senator, in consultations with our students about the proposals to establish the recognition of arts majors on arts diplomas. And getting a lot of the students who we outreach to did not know what the Senate was because of these previous problems that I just mentioned. And I think that expanding outreach as well, not just in the website. I agree that we should start expanding the website with publishing Senate committee meeting minutes, but also to have to establish not the UBC Senator Student Caucus is active on Twitter and has an inactive Facebook group. And I'm in favor of pushing toward an Instagram page in where we can further collaborate on top with the AMS, GSS, and undergraduate society committees, undergraduate societies to push forward the plans of all of those student governance bodies.
Thank you, Candidate Cantler. Moving to Candidate Burnham. You have your 2 minutes.
Thanks. I wanted to emphasize one of the things that's come up, and it's really around the structural issues. Emphasis here that we are in a volunteer capacity. There's no funding for the Student Senate Caucus to host a permanent website year after year with the different web hosting services. We've had the conversations around, how can we engage better as the caucus and, do all of these things. But ultimately, with the lack of funding and resources as volunteers in this body that meets monthly, there's a lot that we can and should be doing around structural pieces and advocating for better resourcing to the Secretary office as well. There's paid advocates within the AMS and GSS whose role it is to liaise with the Senate and the Student Senate Caucus. So it'd be great to see some of that work taken up there. We have people who focus every year on transparency and lots of very big projects that are tangential to the work that's actually done in Senate committees. And I hope that people could remember that at the end of the day, the privileged access and space that they're given in these Senate committee minutes should be the main focus of their time and energy. That's not something that can be replicated by communications done by the Secretariat team or these paid student advocates whose jobs it is to do that work, and they're paid for it. As well, I'll also note that I've been very, very active in my many years in governance. I did, with winter break extension, a massive Reddit explainer, the second that I was allowed to consult with students. And I answered hundreds of questions over Reddit and in my DMs and email. And I've always held the opinion that complicated governance issues are never too complicated to explain to students. So that's been something I've taken with me as I continue to keep folks very updated on Twitter, on Reddit. My emails have always been open. I've met with dozens of people who've been interested in running for Senate. I think it's an individual commitment that people can make rather than broad sweeping commitments for the Student Senate Caucus that are oftentimes untenable.
Right on time. Thank you, Candidate Burnham. Moving to Candidate Bangu. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I 100% believe that, as an elected representative, it's your job to represent student opinion. I never forget why I'm here, and that's because of the students. I'm a strong believer in personal access, and I too have posted on my social media asking students for opinions, and that doesn't need them to follow me or anything at all. It is just a way when we're not supported by the university and the administration in resourcing and funding, and when we have to go and do all of this self, take that personal initiative. I think it's fine whatever student senators find a way to do, the way they find to connect with students. Additionally, I find it interesting, there are paid advocates within the AMS and GSS who sometimes fail to make submissions, timely submissions or submissions at all. And yet they're so adamant about putting this burden on a Student Senate Caucus that works hundreds of hours of unpaid, volunteer, dedicated service towards the students. So I think it's very easy to say that, oh, the Student Senate Caucus doesn't do this, the Student Senate Caucus doesn't do that. Whereas if we just take an example of paid executives and paid staff members who oftentimes neglect their jobs, I think it's really important we take a step back and look at the fact that also communication is
Sorry, Candidate Bangu. I think that maybe you like Candidate Bangu. Candidate Bangu. And I think.
So I think it's very easy to say that
Is the audio weird for anyone else, or is it just me? Okay. It seems like you have a very intense delay going on right now. Like I can see you mouthing words and. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I'm really sorry. Where did I cut off?
You were cutting. Sorry, you were cutting off at. Wait. Can anyone help me out
Taking
here?
a step back.
Step back. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Demir. Thank you. Yeah, I think we really need to take a step back and stop putting so much burden on and pointing fingers towards volunteer, dedicated student advocates, whereas we clearly have examples of paid executives who don't do their job effectively, even though they're paid to advocate for students. So I think it's important we keep that in mind when we're making all these allegations of neglect towards Student Senate Caucus and our outreach. 100% though, engagement can be improved. So thank you.
Thank you, candidate Pungu. Hey, I see those hands going up. We're not, hey, we still have an entire Agosti Moro to go yet, all right? So, candidate Agosti Moro, you have your 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll do my best to be brief so you can get to these. I want to, first of all, this features very prominently in my platform. And I think one thing we should understand as a way to increase transparency and communication is to make the Senate accessible. And it blows my mind. It has since the moment I've sat on the Senate, how untransparent the Senate is, based on the fact that it's made up of mostly elected representatives. Committee meetings are closed. A student cannot attend a committee meeting at UBC unless they are invited by the committee, and that is ridiculous, and that needs to be changed. I'm hoping to use the current external review to advocate for that, to say we must have transparency within these committee processes so students can come and give their opinion, see how their advocates, what they might be communicating, and the opinions that they're giving might not be reflected on the minutes in person. We talk about posting minutes. Let's get that right down right now. The Senate currently mandates that all committees, with the exception of the ones that deal with confidential matters like the appeals committees, must post their minutes, and it's not being done, and that's not acceptable. And I think at the very least, we should start following our own rules and posting those minutes. And I'm kind of glad that candidate Evans brought up going back to basics, because I have a question for him. I'm looking at the website right now. The Academic Building Needs Committee, of which you are chair, has not posted minutes since February 19th of 2019. And I hope you can answer this during the open debate section, is that considering you are the chairperson, one of your responsibilities is to ensure that your committee is following the rules and procedures of the Senate and making sure that it is transparent for the entirety of the university to see. Can you explain to us exactly why there haven't been minutes from those meetings and what you're going to do, considering you're seeking to seek reappointment, which again, you don't need to seek reappointment. Respectfully, you were elected to a chair term of 3 years. You're allowed to continue on that as long as you're elected to the Senate. So I'm just curious how you're going to rectify that. But we need to make the committees open. We need to fight for that, the Student Senate Caucus, within the external review that's currently going on, as we have done, and give students the opportunity to get involved and understand and go to Senate meetings that are not just the open, the whole body wide ones. Thank you. You're muted.
You're muted again.
All right, so we have something spicy. So I'm going to give 15 seconds to Mr. Evans to address the question, which was addressed to him, and then right after that we have candidate Yi, who was very patient in the previous open debate. So candidate Yi can open things up if she would like. If not, then it'll go to candidate Sandu, who also has been waiting very patiently. But yeah, first 15 seconds to Evans to respond to Agosti Moro. So go ahead, Mr. Evans.
Yeah, Dante, I think you're completely right. I mean, you could ask that same question to every other single chair of the Senate committee. And, the 3 months that I've, almost 4 months I've been chair of Senate Academic Building Needs Committee, yeah, I think we need to get the minutes up there. But I answered your question in my response, which is I think we need to, work with the Senate office to get those minutes up there more consistently. So, that's my answer is the answer that I gave.
Thank you, candidate Evans. Okay, so now we're moving to the open debate portion. Again, 4 minutes to get things going. Candidate Yi can open it up, and this is going to be about engagement and transparency and communications, anything to do with making sure that you meet students where they live, type of thing. So go ahead, candidate Yi, if you'd like to begin.
Thank you so much, Pavan. I think what we also do need to look at, on top of being able to return to the basics and having that consistent framework and structure and schedule for which we're going to be posting XYZ presentation, and students can expect that the open committee agenda will be posted by XYZ date. I think what we also need to be looking at is who are the students who are not currently engaged with what is the Senate. I think we also need to be looking at who are the people who don't read the Ubyssey, who don't read or who won't actively reach out and seek out these minutes, because that is one of the big things as well that we need to be looking at. I've been doing consultation with students over WeChat. There's whole communities of international students that we're not engaging with over social media because Reddit, Twitter, all of those platforms, they're blocked in China. And I think we also need to be looking at what are the ways that we can place it, again, on the administration or the Senate Secretariat to also be able to create centralized mechanisms that also have these types of outreach as well. And I think we also do need to be also looking at
wrap it up, Canada.
Oh,
gotcha.
Okay, go ahead. I was going to say that we need to also be looking at this from a disability lens as well, and that we need to be providing closed captioning on Senate live streams as well.
Good stuff. Okay, Canada Bungu, go ahead.
Yeah, just some more things about transparency and engagement. When I talk about paid advocates not doing their job properly, I'm pointing towards people who don't make timely submissions. For example, the Teaching and Learning Committee was consulting on remote invigilation. The AMS did not make a timely submission, due to which the consultation period had to be extended. Of course, this is Senate. We can see this in Board of Governors as well, where they made no submission asking for the athletic and recreation fee to be eliminated. So there are many instances of this. And another thing, directly to Georgia, you mentioned the ADA group in your response, and I find it kind of ironic when student advocates call for more transparency and better governance, but you are sitting on this group and expanding the power of this group, the ADA, Associate Deans Academic, which doesn't share minutes, which is very private, has very minimal student representation. So I'd like an answer to that. How can you be asking for transparency where you expand the power of these untransparent groups? And I'd like to note that the Student Senate Caucus was offered 2 seats to this group, and we rejected those seats because we did not want to expand the power of these kind of groups. So why is your office doing that?
15 seconds to you to, sorry, 15 seconds to you to answer, and then we'll go back to the speakers list. Go ahead, Dee.
For one thing, I think that we did raise our concerns about the transparency, and that is why there is currently now the terms of reference of this group. I think for one, it does toe the line between an advisory group, and I think that it should be kept as an advisory group for ADAs to be able to share. These are the common concerns that they're also looking at. I think one of the big things that we also need to be looking at is the slow, unbureaucratic mechanisms of the Senate as well, and how we can also effectively communicate out to the different faculties.
It's easy to say
Hold on a minute. No, absolutely not.
I'm sorry.
There's plenty of people who want to say things, and I don't want to get this into a 2-person show. It's my show.
No, I apologize.
Anyway, okay, so candidate Ho, go ahead, then Mehta, then Cantelar.
I guess just not a question, but I guess on top of the timely submissions of minutes, I believe the quality of minutes is also something that has not been addressed by any of the candidates here. Navigation has been difficult when you look into actual Senate minute documents. You need to look for the actual section yourself of navigation means. So and this definitely isn't just a Senate issue. It also applies to also other parts of student government. But yeah.
Mehta?
Thank you so much. I'd like to touch on a few things that Ishana has mentioned this evening, particularly starting off with her comments around volunteering. In my experience as a leader in this community, I've been told, and it's been shared to me by others that I've work in clubs, that volunteering is a privilege. That means that financial security is not your priority. It's something that's already taken care of, and you have the extra hundreds of hours to be able to do this detailed documentation and work. That is a privilege, that you're not concerned about your finances. And so it is important for us to recognize that student advocates that are leaning towards staff positions, maybe they're more concerned about paying their tuition or paying their car loans than they are about how much attention they're getting through Senate. The second thing is regarding academic deans meetings. Simon Bates has actually spoken to Max Holmes about this directly. The Senate is well aware, the Senate Student Caucus is well aware of the academic deans meetings being taken place even before Georgia was in this position. Julia sat in that group as well in her position as VP AUA. And it is also important to know that we are not empowering this team in any way or group in any way. Georgia is one of the only students, myself and Nicholas from the GSS sit on that team. We are the only women of color, one of the only women of color in that group. And it is really important for you to recognize the amount of emotional labor and time that Georgia and I spent advocating for students in a space that would otherwise have absolutely no elected representation. It's not an easy job to take, and Georgia does a very graceful job of holding that. Obviously, there are ways that we can improve at the AMS, but given the responsibilities she's had to carry during this pandemic, I think that she's done an excellent job.
You gotta admit that. You gotta admit that. Okay. All right. 30 seconds to Cantler, and then that's all for the open debate. We're already running out of time for audience questions, and we need that. So 30 seconds to Cantler, and then we're done here.
All right. Real quickly, I just want to take a step back and talk about more comprehension on what I mean by social media outreach. During the winter, the advocacy of the extended winter break, there was amazing posts on Instagram about the information regarding about that. And I've had friends and students who didn't even know what the Senate was began talking about the Senate when Ashana, Julia, and Justin shared information about the extended winter break. And I think that is a precedence that is really important to continue. We've seen many Instagram posts from the candidates here that post everything on infographics on Instagram. And I think that's something that the Student Center Caucus can use and utilize when you create an Instagram account.
Thank you, candidate Chancellor. Okay, so it seems like each of these open debates has been pulling teeth in a new and exciting way. So things need to change, obviously. Right, I assure you that they'll be better for the great debate, and particularly raising to address the accessibility concerns that candidate Yi has raised. I sincerely apologize that this hasn't been conducive to that, and yeah, I dearly apologize for that, but I assure you that it'll be better for the great debate. Now, moving on into audience questions, hopefully we'll have two. I think we'll have time for two. Yeah, so, right, the first audience question is, and this will be going to, I think, Yi first. No, Augusti Morrow first, I believe. Yeah, going to Augusti Morrow first. Right, so sorry, let me pull up my audience questions. Right, so the first question is, there's a mix of returners and there's a mix of returners and new candidates in this debate. How do you plan on mentoring people so that they're actually able to just take on the role of senator, which is also facing its own visibility right now? And so that's for the returners. For the new people, what makes you qualified for this position? And this person is particularly asking for courses and work experience. Remember, you only have 1 minute. So Augusti Morrow, go ahead. You have your minute.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think one thing that I've always tried to do during my time on the Senate, and also when within the Commerce and Graduate Society when I was on the board, is passing on knowledge to incoming members. That's something that is a challenge for anyone entering a leadership position, especially on the Senate and the Board of Governors. There's so much knowledge that must be picked up, and on-the-job learning must happen during those first few months. And that's what I strive to do for any new members who are joining the Senate, both as senators at large, but also faculty senators, is trying to pass on some of that information. The who's who of the Senate, the politics of it all. It's very difficult to understand that unless you've been in those meetings and understand what makes the Senate tick. So that's what I tend to do, personal engagement with those, and something that the Student Senate Caucus co-chairs are supposed to do is to support the students in their work on the Senate. And if I do return to the Senate and I do decide to run and am elected as a co-chair again, I will continue to do that as best as I can. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Augusti Morrow. Moving to candidate Bungu. You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Just to clarify, so they want specific work experience that makes us qualified, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so of course, during my time as the Senate, I've been privileged enough to be the co-chair of the Student Senate Caucus and the vice chair of the Budget Committee. But I've been involved in representation and making voices heard far before that. I actually worked in a member of Parliament's office for 2 years. I was employed there. Before that, I volunteered there for around 3 years. And I'm also currently a TA for 4 sections of a course. I also served as a TA, worked as a TA last time. So I think I really am passionate about connecting with students and connecting with people and making that connection and ensuring that voice is heard. So I believe that I'm very qualified for this position, and I really hope you choose to re-elect me. Of course, apart from my work experiences, I can really speak to the passion I have, and there is not a day that goes by where I don't think about what can I advocate for students, or what are we currently working on, how are we making progress for students. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, candidate Bungu. Moving to candidate Burnham. You have 1 minute. Oh, sorry, just as a point of clarification, the question is in the chat for everyone. So yeah, go ahead, candidate Burnham.
Thanks. As someone who's been around the Senate for 2 years, mentorship this year has been something that I've taken on in particular. I've worked really closely with Ashana and Dante to pass on the reins of co-chair and support them throughout their tenure. I've had dozens of meetings with people who are both in this race and in the faculty races both this year and last year, trying to get people's questions answered about the Senate. And I've always extended that offer quite publicly in every avenue that I can. In terms of my qualifications, my master's degree is literally in higher ed studies, and my thesis that I am going to start writing this summer is on academic service labor. So a lot of the work that I do in my courses is directly related to the work of the Senate. Mentorship is really important to me. These 1-year terms really aren't enough time for folks to get their feet wet and understand what's going on. So the continuity is a really important piece when we have senators who spend literal decades in the Senate.
Thank you, candidate Burnham. Moving to candidate Kentler. Go ahead. You have 1 minute.
All right, thank you so much. So yes, I am a newcomer. I was previously experienced with being the AUS's second-year representative last year, and currently I am the vice chair of the Student Life Committee in the AMS. What those 2 positions I had in the AMS and the AUS, the main takeaway skill that I have got was student outreach. I'm experienced in giving classroom announcements, outreaching on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, making sure in ways that students become aware of what student government does. And I want to do that if elected as your next student senator at large. I really want to make the Senate a more knowable place. And that's what I plan to do if elected. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Kentler. So I've received the okay to extend this until till 8 flat. So that'll mean time to wrap up this audience question, and then 1 more audience question all the way down the line, and then 2.5 minutes for saying goodbyes. So cool. Moving on to candidate Evans. You have your 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was important to know about the Senate is, a lot of people come into the Senate with like a lot of, like I mentioned before, a lot of big ideas, and we're gonna do all these things. But having been over in the Senate this past year, I think I've realized that it's you're a lot more effective when you sort of focus in on very specific actionable items that you're able to achieve at the committee level that can then be brought to the Senate as a whole. So I think, like, as far as mentorship goes, it's important to make sure that new senators are supported and that their ideas are entertained, that we're encouraging them to pursue all the goals that they have for Senate, but also helping them figure out like what is the most effective way to accomplish these goals, what goals are realistic, and then what goals maybe should be added as like a collective goal for Student Senate Caucus where we can push with more people.
Thank you, candidate Evans. You all are doing a very good job of staying on time. Moving to candidate Ho. You have your 1 minute. Go ahead.
Wait, just to clarify, the second question, so what makes me qualified for this position is?
Yes, for newcomers, yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, so even though I'm a newcomer to like Senate, I've been involved as a student leader on Ubyssey campus for quite a long time. So currently I am an AMS counselor, and at the same time I'm also the chair of the Advocacy Committee. You just need to look at my records on AMS council meetings that I ask a lot of questions and make sure that things are accountable. even when I was just a student, back when I was a student and just going there for food. At the same time, I have had I have also had experiences in understanding the different courses. As a current co-op student, as a BMM student, where course evaluations are much better than other faculties. As a CISO program student leader, I've been able to get experiential learning, and on top of that, as part of Ubyssey.
Thank you, Canada. Thank you. Moving to, we've got candidate Korniashik up next. You've got your 1 minute. Go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. I'm very glad we are able to talk about this topic, and my candidacy might seem a bit titleless to some. However, my experience as an AMS eHub marketing team lead has definitely allowed me to understand AMS structure a lot more, as well as the governing bodies of the university. I've been actively involved in Montreal UN for the past 5 years, as well as entrepreneurship and other political endeavors. Being an international student and being involved in many of campus groups, I have seen points of improvement. Moreover, I'm currently studying political science, focusing on international relations and economics. My political passion is based on the goal of representation, and therefore I believe my candidacy is a perfect fit. Moreover, I'm a very quick learner, and I will make sure I contact the previous speakers to understand technical terms, as well as some of the procedural methods and etc. My progressive and fair approach will be very beneficial to the Senate and the students, as my goal is to bring Ubyssey to #1 ratings in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Korniashik. Moving to candidate Mantha, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Thank you. So my experience in the Ubyssey community is quite different. I'm a commuter student, and so I've had to overcome a lot of barriers to be here. And in this role as the Associate Vice President Academic, I've had to build my community through the Collegiate Program, which is a student staff position, as well as orientations, Jumpstart, and being on the Student Leadership Committee planning team. Now I'm also one of the only student members that's been asked to be on the Permanent Staff Hiring Committee for the Center for Student Involvement and Careers. This is a deep pleasure of mine, as I'm a huge advocate for making sure that there are spaces on campus for students to build their communities the way I have. Beyond this, I also sit on the Open Education Working Group, and I have for the past year, as well as the Open Champions Award Committee, and this plans open education policies, as well as the Academic Integrity Working Group that has just started as well. Beyond this, I also was a part of the Science Undergraduate Society, as well as an active member of the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Club, which I hope will allow me to bring my experience and bridge the gap between people and policy that we've all identified exists here tonight. Thank you.
Candidate Mehta. Moving to candidate Sandhu, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yes, so I plan on mentoring people in the way that I have. I've had several students within the community of land and food systems reach out to me to discuss this matter, and I'm always welcoming to talk with them, whether that's just over a chat or a Zoom call, and I will maintain that as I'm in this position, and even when I am done with being the LFS student senator, that is a title that I will have gone through, and I will always be a person of contact someone can reach out to. I would say that is my main platform and reach where I have, and I think this year there has actually been an increase in awareness of the faculty student senator position, so I will continue with what I've been doing and being an approachable person for students to come to talk to.
Thank you, candidate Sandhu, right on time. And rounding us out, candidate Yi, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Thank you. Having served as the Vice President of Academic and University Affairs for the AMS for the past year, I've triaged a variety of issues that cropped up during the COVID-19 pandemic. I've already had various correspondence with the Senate. I presented to the Senate on remote invigilation. I have extensive policy review work as well and experience. We're currently working on the amendment to policy J102 in collaboration with the Ombuds Office right now. And I'm also currently serving on the Naming Policy Review Committee for the university policy as well. And I also concluded the policy SC17 work as well. I also have a keen eye for implementation, including successfully securing funding for $1.5 million dedicated to the climate emergency as well, which is also a priority that I will work on going forward. I've also been a leader within the Residence Hall Association as well.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so now moving to the last audience question, and then we'll have time for rapsies upsies. All right, so you all have talked about, in your position as incumbents or returners or newcomers, your qualifications. Now we want to test those qualifications just a little bit. So for candidates returning to the Senate, what have you individually, not collectively with caucus, accomplished this year within the Senate, and which committee was it on? For new candidates, what do you hope to individually, again, not collectively as a caucus, hope to accomplish next year, and on which Senate committee? So a little bit of a knowledge tester for you. So candidate Yi, you'll start off with 1 minute. Go ahead.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
No worries. So for you, as a newcomer, for new candidates, what do you hope to individually, not collectively as a caucus, hope to accomplish next year, and on which Senate committee? So you have 1 minute. You good?
Yes, I believe that as I bring a lot of experience regarding accessibility. I've done a lot of consultation regarding accessibility work, regarding what that looks like in the classroom, as well as physical accessibility with regarding access to the Center for Accessibility as well. And so I believe that through the Teaching and Learning Committee, I can bridge these different gaps across from the academic building needs, whether it is calling for a consistent and timely audit of academic buildings and calling for a priority list of academic building renewals that require accessibility improvements, and then looking as well at the implementation of the policy on accommodations for students with disabilities as well, and being able to make those implementation connections through the Teaching and Learning Committee. How can different students access these resources and have a wholesome response to the access resources that they can achieve.
Thank you, Kennedy. Okay, moving to who's next? Kennedy Sandu, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yes, I think the word accomplishment can be taken in different ways given the way this is asked. During this past year, I've only served on the curriculum committee, and something that I'm proud of that we passed there, that's held near and dear to my heart being an LFS student, is the expansion of the Ubyssey dietetics program becoming a master's program. Of course, that's not something I am in the planning or developing of, but advocating for it, as that is something that LFS students pursuing dietetics, there's a need for that. Every year there's almost, I think, around like 100 applicants, but there are only very select seats. So that was something very necessary, and I'm happy to see that it has been passed at the Senate level. And in terms of like very individual accomplishments, I would say posting a voting record to the LFS US website.
Thank you, Kennedy Sandu. Moving to candidate Mehta. You have 1 minute. You got a question?
Yes, thank you.
Good stuff.
So what I really hope to do in my role if elected as a senator at large is work with the library committee. And this has kind of been an inside joke to the Student Senate Caucus because it was supposed to be dissolved, but because of a clerical error, the library committee still exists. And I'm actually really passionate about open education. As you can see, it's detailed a lot in my platform and how I hope to make the Senate adjudication of the Open Champions Award to honor faculty members that have dedicated time to developing their resources under a Creative Commons license. So I've tried my best this past past year to work through teaching and learning, but as we know, it's bright and shiny and oversaturated with a lot of other projects. And so my hope would actually be to revive the library committee and bring some new energy and new ideas there, work with the Open Educational Working Group that I've been a part of for the past 11 months, and make sure that we are trying our best to support all aspects of the institution that support open education, the library, CTLT, the Center for Technology and Learning, as well as the AMS, and all the work that we've done in the past continues to go through the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Nita. Moving to candidate Courtney Asher. You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. So again, being an international student and especially being in the Vantage College for the first year, I understand how crucial it is to deliver and gather information. So that's the first thing right off the bat that I would do is establishing a proper medium of connection to the students as delivering the information. The second thing is establishing and admitting a lot more Indigenous students, as I talked before. My final goal, and as I've also listed in the platform and told you guys, is to move Ubyssey to #1 spot in university in Canada, right? So I believe that going back to the hybrid classes with the correct implementation for international students, Indigenous people, students inclusion, and proper delivery and gathering of information is needed. And yeah, thank you very much.
Candidate Courtney Asher, unfortunately, you neglected to mention to answer either part of the question. The first part being something that you can do individually. All of the things you mentioned are all very large things, like moving the university up in rankings and things. And the other thing was to name a committee that you would pursue this goal on. So
yeah,
so you have 15 seconds to answer both of those questions, and all you get is 15 seconds. So go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I forgot to mention the committee. So the committee that I would like to be on is the admissions committee, and especially specifically because I would like to focus on the Indigenous students admission. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Courtney Asher. Moving to candidate Ho, you have 1 minute. Got a question?
Okay, so something that I want to do individually would be pushing for review of programs related to affiliate universities and relevant policies related to that. Personally, I do hope if other people in the caucus are willing to help, that would be great. But I understand sometimes it could potentially turn into a can of worms that no one would want to touch. And for that, I think I would want to individually push for that. This stems from some of the discussions surrounding the HKU Solder Dual Degree Program last year in the Senate meeting minutes of 27th May 2019, where our friend Max Holmes has mentioned how, equity, diversity, and inclusion has not been considered in our affiliation agreements with other universities. And I want to take on what he mentioned in these comments and move to push for, making sure that our affiliate agreements are in line with, equity, inclusion, and also academic freedom. Policy Council of Senates. Okay.
Thank you, candidate Ho. Moving to candidate Evans, you have 1 minute. You got the question?
Thanks, Pavan. I think that one thing that I can do this year is, again, going back to that external review on building accessibility. I think that's something, and just building on what I accomplished this past year, being, appointed to chair of the Senate Academic Building Needs Committee, but moving forward and with that review, making sure that not only is it something that's happening at the committee, but we actually might be able to create a more robust process for reviewing our facilities on campus by coordinating with other units such as campus community planning, board of governors, and creating a more holistic approach to that review. So that's something that I'll be able to do in my position as chair of the Academic Buildings Committee, and something that I think can really make a significant difference moving forward.
Candidate Evans, you have 15 seconds left. Because you're a returning person, the question to you is, what did you accomplish this year outside of the Senate caucus that that you're proud of? So you have 15 seconds for that.
Yeah, I think I go back to being appointed as a chair of a committee. I mean, I didn't expect to be chair of a committee coming to the role. And I think that, some of the discussions that we've been having at the Academic Building Needs Committee this year around hybrid learning moving to the fall and stuff have been really important. And I've been happy that we've been able to facilitate that.
Thank you, candidate Evans. Moving to, sorry, you can hear my Slack going off. Moving to candidate Cantler. You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just in acknowledging that the Teaching and Learning Committee is a very popular committee, I'm just very passionate in making sure that academic policy at UBC can enrich the academic opportunities for students to achieve academic success. And one of the things that I want to do personally through the through the Teaching and Learning Committee is to table for universal online office hours as an option for students to make office hours more accessible for every UBC student.
Thank you, candidate Cantler. Moving to candidate Burnham. You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
I'll keep it concise. As chair of the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Academic Diversity and Inclusion, along with my vice chair, because, you know, as much as we are individuals, so much of this work is not individual and it would be incorrect to own it as such. But I co-authored the final report from the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Academic Diversity and Inclusion. We presented it in July to the full Senate, and it was approved swimmingly. So those are firm commitments and recommendations from that report that have arisen, and that is a big accomplishment that I am very proud of and hope to continue working with this permanent standing committee that I'm working on right now.
Thank you, candidate Burnham. Moving to candidate Bungu. You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I don't mean to be repetitive, but as co-chair of the Student Senate Caucus, I would like to emphasize that a lot of the advocacy is caucus advocacy. And the reason we have a Student Senate Caucus is so that it becomes easier for individual senators to pursue larger goals. Now, speaking to that, again, I don't want to take individual credit, but the preparation of the Senate 2023 document, that's something I'm very proud of. I led the preparation of that and co-wrote it along with Shilea Muniz, and of course, everybody at the caucus contributed to it. That is something I'm very proud of. Apart from that, as a member of the Academic Policy Committee, I was able to advocate for, again, not I, we, the student members of the Academic Policy Committee were able to advocate for an extended winter break. So those are two things I guess I'll leave you with.
Gotcha. Moving on to candidate Agostí Moro. Round us out. 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'll do my best to be brief because I mentioned this a number of times tonight, but something that I am very proud of is my work that I've done on reforming the appeals committees. Again, in partnership with the Law Student Senator, because as been mentioned, teamwork is key within the Senate. The amount of individual hours that I've been able to put that I have put in on that, whether it be experiencing those meetings where you identify the issues and consulting with stakeholders from around the university, writing the recommendations. That's something that I've worked very hard on, and talking about these specific committees, the admissions committee, the appeals and academic standing committee, the student appeals and academic discipline committee. Those are not easy committees, and I hope to return to at least some of them next year if I'm reelected to see this work through, because it's not done. And often things, when you're on the Senate, your work is never done, and all you can do is do your best to push it along, to get as much done as possible, and train people who are going to come after you to help them continue the work that you've started.
Thank you, candidate Agostí Moro. So keeping it going very quickly, now we're moving on to closing statements, 30 seconds apiece. Yeah, go ahead. Candidate Agostí Moro, say your goodbye.
Perfect, thank you. I can say that there's many qualified candidates on this debate stage, but I hope that tonight I've shown you why I believe I have the experience, the results, and the work ethic to be one of your 5 student senators at large. Through my advocacy on all levels of the Senate, the results I've achieved, and my leadership of the Student Senate Caucus, I feel I've established the connections and relationships with not only students, but also faculty and administration to continue to be an effective advocate for all students at UBC. For information about my campaign, you can reach out directly to me directly or visit my website, votenaughty.ca. I look forward to seeing all of you at the great debate. Thanks to the UBC and AMS elections for hosting this.
Thank you, candidate Agostí Moro. Moving to candidate Bungu, 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. It's been an absolute honor serving as your co-chair of the Student Senate Caucus, vice chair of the Budget Committee. I also serve on 3 Senate committees and an academic integrity working group, and I'm the only student on a group that is rethinking experiential learning at UBC. So I really do think I'm dedicated, and I've done the work to prove that I am fit for this role, and I really hope that you'll consider my dedication as a sign that you should re-elect me, and I really hope you'll place your faith in me again. Even if you don't, please go and vote. So thank you.
Thank you, candidate Bungu. Moving to candidate Burnham, 30 seconds.
Hey folks, thanks for coming out tonight. It's usually just the Ubyssey and the candidates here, so it's really exciting to see 49 participants. I hope I've proven to you that I am consistent, I am honest and transparent, and I have delivered results in the past couple of years. And I hope to have the opportunity to continue serving you on the Senate. And I hope you'll visit votejulia.ca for more details on my platform. Thanks.
Thank you, candidate Burnham. Candidate Kentler, your 30 seconds. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. To learn more about my platform, I encourage you to visit voteeman.ca. Despite the amazing things discussed today, there is a potential that our voices won't reach as far as we hope. And as such, I implore the folks watching this to encourage all of your Ubyssey friends to vote from March 1st to 5th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidate Kentler. Moving to candidate Evans. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out again tonight. I've had a great year this past year as student senator. On top of everything else that I've been able to accomplish at the AMS. Had a great time with the team. I mean, Student Senate Caucus is, a huge part of everything that we're able to do in the Senate. And I've been able to develop a platform that is concise and provides tangible actions that I'll be able to accomplish within the year. So I would love to be reelected and keep working for you as one of your student senators at large. Go to votecool.ca. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, candidate Evans. Moving to candidate Ho. 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, once again, thank you for everyone who has come into tonight's debate. I hope I have shown to you how my platform is bringing in tangible, fresh perspectives on top of what has already been established in the frameworks from things like Senate 2023. Look for more information at votematthewho.ca. Voting is from 1st to 5th March 2021, and I hope everyone will vote.
Thank you, candidate Ho. Candidate Korniashik, 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for your time. I'll repeat what I said yesterday at the debate as well. So 2021 and 2022 will be a very challenging academic year, and it is a year when more than crisis reaction is needed. It's a time when Ubyssey must establish a strong ground for the years to come, and my candidacy will ensure a progressive, enthusiastic, and outside-of-the-box approach to the governing of Ubyssey. Make sure you save the date, March 1st to 5th, and vote Damir Korniashik for Board of Governors and the Senate so we can begin constructing excellence together. Thank you very much, and have a great night, guys.
Thank you, candidate Korniashik. Moving to candidate Mehta. 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for your time this evening. I hope that folks tonight recognize that we need to be electing leaders who are familiar with committees but have more creative and community-based approaches to advocacy. I believe my experience with clubs, orientations, undergraduate societies, and the AMS make me an exceptional candidate for the senator-at-large position. If elected, I promise I will bridge the gap between students and policy and focus on immediate action. Please check out voteforshivani.ca for more information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, candidate Mehta. Moving to candidate Sandhu. You have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
I am motivated by my experience as the LFS student senator and facilitating conversations on difficult topics. I'm confident that I can best serve the Senate and make recommendations on policies to various stakeholders to ensure that student needs are heard and met.
Thank you, candidate Sandhu. And round us out, candidate Yi. Say your goodbyes. 30 seconds.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This year has been a challenging year for everybody, faculty, students, and staff, but it has highlighted the need for strong student academic advocacy more than ever. Having served as your VPAUA this past year, my work is not done. I deliver results, and I'm committed to empowering students and making Ubyssey not just more accommodating, but accessible from the start. If you want to hear more from me, visit my website at votegeorgiayi.com and make sure to vote on March 1st to 5th. Thanks, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you, candidate Yi. And a big round of applause to all of our candidates up on stage. 5 of them will go on to represent you in the big house, that being the Senate. Good stuff. All right, thank you, everybody. Cool. So what happens next is we're going to be doing the SLFS thing, but quickly to the candidates here, you will receive a document about the agenda for the great debate. And I understand that tonight was very fluid, very in flux. There's a number of things that I didn't expect to be problems that were, so we're gonna fix those and make this a lot more streamlined for Saturday. So watch out in your emails for those. Have a lovely night, and Isabel, what's up?
On this, everyone involved, we're all learning together. So thanks to Pavan and the Ubyssey team and all the candidates for being troopers, and going with the flow, rolling with the punches as we do these.
I appreciate that, Isabel. Right, so moving on to SLFS, and after that, I think that the elections is giving away more things. So stick around, both to hear about Legal Fund Society and also to win something. Cool. Right, so if I can get all of the folks who are on the SLFS slate to turn on their cameras and everyone else to do the opposite, turn them off. So yeah, that'd be great. So I can get all of your, and hopefully we can fit you all onto a pinned screen. That would be great. Yeah, I'll take a couple of seconds to get that done. Cool. Plenty of smiling faces for this. Right, and so everyone to please make sure to send us your audience questions starting now. Go send them to Charlotte. Her name is Charlotte M- the Ubyssey for any questions for your Student Legal Fund Society candidates. Yeah, so let's get things going. So I understand that there was a little bit of confusion about this at the beginning. Isabel let me know that there was some confusion about the format of the debate, where, as I understand it, like it read like only one person from the slate would be answering. Is that correct? Or is there no confusion?
I think that Isabel clarified it, that she would ideally like all of us to answer the questions, if that's correct.
Yeah, and that's what our questions are geared towards, is all of you having your own answers. So that would be.
And then can you just clarify how long then each of us has?
Right, yeah, so it would go like a regular debate where everyone gets 2 minutes. You can do a minute if you want, if someone else has already said what you want to say. But yeah, again, a lot of these are particularized to you individually. So yeah, there's plenty of room for you to make statements unto yourself. We'll be doing this alphabetically, so sorry, one of you, I don't know what your name is because it's one word altogether. Is it Enema?
It's Anna.
Anna, gotcha. Very great. So can I get your last name, because that's what I'll be going by for
Okay, Maglalia.
Gotcha. Oh, so I assume it's the
Yeah.
Good stuff. Right. So let me just make a little thing for y'all. Bearing with me after a long night. I'm excited to hear what y'all have to do with the money, and the power. Cool. All right. I have our list already. Yeah. Okay. Right. So let's kick things off with candidate Feenan. So, oh, sorry. Yeah, we'll do opening statements first. So, candidate Feenan, give us your 30-second opening statement.
All right. Hi, my name is Rachel Feenan. I'm committed to improving the Ubyssey experience of the student body in its entirety. I would like to further the current aims of the SLFS, especially in the area of student engagement, which I believe strongly ties into matters of transparency, accountability, diversity, and inclusion. Strong partnerships with campus organizations, as well as reallocating student funds to create a greener campus culture and community are a main priority of our slate Student for Students. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Feenan. Moving to candidate Lange. You have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sophie. I'm a third-year arts co-op student majoring in psychology. Alongside my slate, I hope to pursue many of the initiatives taken by former SLFS members. So significantly, we plan to expand on their inclusion for diversity and the current aims for financial accountability and transparency, as well as increasing engagement. I'm excited for the opportunity to provide support for Ubyssey students and their legal concerns, and I believe that my attention to detail and organizational skills would be an asset for the position if elected to board. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Lange. Moving to candidate Maglalia. You have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Anna Maglalia, and I'm a second-year political science student hoping to be a board member for the Student Legal Fund Society this year. My slate and I are dedicated to continuing and enhancing the work of prior Student Legal Fund Society members. We will be focused on initiatives such as accessibility and inclusivity, sustainable and responsible financial expenditure, and making sure that the student body is aware of what the Student Legal Fund Society can do for them. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Maglalia. Rolling on to candidate Sherian. You have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Shrine, a member of the Students for Students slate. I'm a third-year student specializing in finance at the Sauder School of Business. I'm passionate about continuing and building upon many of the initiatives of the previous SLFS board. Our slate is committed to diversity and inclusion, maintaining partnerships with influential campus groups such as the LSLAP and SASC, marketing and raising awareness for the SLFS, and continuing to divest from fossil fuels into more environmentally sustainable options. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. I apologize. Candidate Shrine, was it?
Yeah, that's it.
Good stuff. Thank you. I'll make sure to keep that in my head. And rounding out with candidate Timuri, you have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Hi there, my name is Kia Timuri, and I'm super excited to be a part of the SLFS. We have so many great initiatives that I'd love to push. Anything ranging from transparency to accessibility to Indigenous issues. And I believe that my skill set and my previous experience with the AMS and with clubs at Ubyssey will help me push these goals and to make these goals a reality.
Thank you, candidate Timuri. And we'll keep you talking with this first question from the Ubyssey. And so you'll each get 2 minutes to answer this, but again, given that you're all anyway, yeah, so do with that time what you will, so long as it's related to the question. So the first question is for you, candidate Timuri, is the SLFS is notoriously obscure. Why are you running? You have 2 minutes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm running because I really believe that I can help further the reach of this society. I ran for council a couple years ago, and I really enjoyed that, but I felt like I wasn't able to do what I wanted to. And I believe the SLFS is a little more niche in that I can actually do something tangible. And me and my team have come up with a bunch of tangible goals that we really want to accomplish. And these are things that I take pride in, and these are things that I firmly believe in. Things like expanding our Indigenous inclusion, things like accessibility. So I really just want to make a tangible influence or make a tangible change to a society.
Thank you, candidate Timuri. Moving to candidates Shrine. Go ahead, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. So, wait, can you repeat the question one more time?
No worries. It'll be respectfully, the SLFS is notoriously obscure. Why are you running for this position? Go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm running for this because I have a lot of confidence in myself and our slate and our ability to transform the SLFS into kind of a driving force. It's a really good initiative that kind of holds both the university and clubs like the AMS accountable and kind of gives access to everyone for the funding they need for the different cases that they may have. Now, our slate is really committed to building awareness for the SLFS through 2 main pillars, basically maintaining and building upon the partnerships that we already have. We largely fund the LSLAP, and we have strategic partnerships with the with SASC and as well with the AMS. And so kind of working with these groups to sort of build up our society and kind of expand our influence, and then also marketing the SLFS through social media and kind of just getting the word out about the group, because nobody can really use the services if they don't know what we are. So that's one of our primary objectives, is to kind of get the word out and spread kind of what our message is and what we do at the SLFS.
Thank you, candidate Shrine. Moving to candidate Maglalia. Do you need to repeat? Or sorry, the question is in the chat now. So yeah, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, firstly, I want to bring my prior experiences into my time at Ubyssey, and I want to do all I can to give back to the student body. When I first came to Ubyssey, I didn't know anything about the Student Legal Fund Society, and as soon as I found it, I grew an interest in its goals and resources. And I want to, alongside my team, work to improve existing initiatives, primarily by spreading awareness for what we do and what we want to do and what we have done, and also just focusing on allocating our resources better and helping the student body.
Thank you, candidate Maglalia. Moving to candidate Lange. Sorry, is it Lange?
Lange.
Gotcha. Candidate Lange.
So one of the main reasons I'm running, I think others have already commented on, the main thing's building engagement. So as a transfer student, I had no idea what the SLFS was. And so I think it's essential that we utilize our services to create a platform that people are aware of. And so, as already mentioned, just creating workshops and partnerships, I think is a big thing that I hope to work towards.
Thank you, candidate Lange. And candidate Feenan. Go ahead. 2 minutes.
Well, the SLFS is often overlooked, so I think one of the things that we're looking to do is just to increase student engagement, because ultimately the SLFS does handle a huge budget which comes from students' tuition, so they should care what this money goes to. And we hope that by contributing to things that support matters that they care about, we can come to understand what they want, where their money goes, so we can support student engagement as a priority to see which partnerships would help us adequately provide this support for students. I think I've worked with the Political Science Student Association through their mentorship program just to help individual students in their Ubyssey experience. So I think that I'm ready to expand that to the broader student body, and that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Candidate, you kind of answered like your qualifications for the position, but I'm more so interested in like, what makes you want to do the SLFS? I'll give you 30 seconds to answer that.
To be honest, my roommate worked with the SLFS. She was on the board last year. I recently moved in here with her in September. And it wasn't something that I was overly aware of because it often is overlooked. So as soon as I saw her passion for it, we are both in poli-sci, and I think it was something that I was interested in, and she advised that I run, and it's something that I've taken on to do, I guess. I think that you're muted.
Happens. Oh boy, that's what so many hours of politics will do to you. Right. So this will begin with candidate Feenan, and then we'll go down the line. So this next question is: what's one new workshop you would run that hasn't been run in the past? And yeah, hopefully all of you can name one or two each. But yeah, go ahead, candidate Feenan. You have 2 minutes.
So I think that historically the SLFS, when they run workshops, haven't been particularly successful in running them on their own. So I think, as Matt talked about before, strategic partnerships are something that's very crucial. It's a key component to having success. And also I can see a question in the chat that talks about what we mean by student engagement. So I think that student engagement and workshops are very intertwined, because when we reach out to social groups on campus, or like social groups in terms of advocacy groups, I guess is what I mean more, like the Black Students Union or Indigenous groups, that we can work with those groups to provide workshops. Like I know in the past they've worked on knowing your rights as a protester with the Black Students Union, because of Black Lives Matter was a huge thing. It still continues to be, but especially it was coming out at that point. So I think working with marginalized groups on campus to increase engagement, but also to have workshops with students. Thank you.
Candidate Feenan, I appreciate you defining student engagement, but I did ask you about a particular workshop idea that you wanted to do. So I'll give you, I'll give you 20 seconds for that. Go ahead.
I think right now there's a lot of racism towards Asians in Vancouver, or in Canada in general, especially because of COVID-19. So I think that with Asian groups on campus, especially considering that Ubyssey has a huge Asian population, we could work towards anti-racism in a law perspective with the Student Legal Fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Feenan. It will be reflected that you didn't necessarily answer the question. You did reflect groups that you engage with, but thank you. Moving to Candidate Lange. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
I think in addition, I'm unsure how deeply they've gone into this for workshops, but I think Indigenous workshops would be useful. Just in general, making sure that they're aware of what we can do for them and any legal services. I think that would be beneficial as well, just reaching out to groups on campus so we can provide any help. Yeah, thank you.
Right, Candidate Lynch, maybe the question isn't clear. I do want particular ideas of, like, you said Indigenous workshops, and that's good, but I'm giving you another 20 seconds just to particularize what you mean by Indigenous workshops. So 20 seconds, go ahead.
Just with, I think it's important that we, in our workshop, we would be able to give fundamental resources that SLFS can provide for them, a guide just of legal rights, that sort of thing specifically.
Thank you, candidate Lang.
I just have a question. Like, am I allowed to answer on behalf of others? Like, if I have an idea, like,
no, you have your appointed time, and all of you are running for positions upon this. So, yeah, when it comes to your turn, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, you each will be evaluated on your own merits. So, moving to candidate Maglalia, you have 2 minutes to answer the question. Go ahead.
Okay, so I first think that it's really important to, like everyone else has been saying, reach out to students, and once we gain that awareness, it'll be easier for us to decide what workshops would benefit the student body. However, I do think like a potential collaboration with the First Nations Studies Student Association would be beneficial, just because these are underrepresented youth. And I also think that like what this workshop might look like, I mean, this is all very like in the future, we don't know. We were kind of focused on talking to the students before we kind of decide what would be beneficial. But like hearing them out, how can we make our resources available to everyone, you know, marginalized youth, students who feel like they don't have access to our resources for some reason. So I think like a potential workshop could be one with the FNSSA.
Thank you, candidate Maglalia. Moving to candidate Shrine. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. So a very common theme that I've heard about and that Dante has talked about and done a lot of work for is specifically around student privacy. A lot of students are very concerned with Proctorio and all these kind of remote invigilation services about their privacy. And so I was thinking about doing some kind of workshop where we partner with, say, LSLAP, very similar to what we did with the BSU, where it was a knowing your rights type of thing, and kind of a knowing your rights with regards to privacy. So students know exactly what their professors or these remote invigilation services can ask for or can do in terms of monitoring them.
Thank you, candidate Shrine. Moving to candidate Tamori. Round us out. 2 minutes.
Yeah, so back on the topic of Indigenous inclusion, something that's been on my mind, and especially with the SLFS, was the fact that Indigenous students are disproportionately underrepresented at Allard. So one thing that I was thinking of doing was bringing Indigenous legal experts or Indigenous students that have had experience at Allard to almost guide potential prospective Indigenous law students. And I think that's really important because we definitely have an obligation to give back to these communities. And they're super underrepresented in the legal field. So I think shedding light on that is something that I really want to push come the SLFS.
Yeah, okay, Mon. Thank you, candidate Tamori. That brings us to the end of that question. And moving on to the last Ubyssey question. After this, we have a couple of audience questions. So to keep you talking, candidate Tamori, many students don't know what the SLFS is or why they pay for it, and the website has several broken links. How will you better communicate your importance to students? And just as a note, not just, you know, we'll communicate with them, we'll do Facebook, we'll do an Instagram. I do want particularities of how you would communicate plans, you know. Yeah, I do want a little bit more particular. So how would you better communicate the SLFS's importance to students? Candidate Tamori, you have 2 minutes.
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I was about to answer a question in chat.
No worries about the questions in chat. We're incorporating those into our audience questions because, you know, that's the audience. The question is, I'll repeat it. Many students don't know what the SLF is or why they pay for it, and the website has several broken links, indicating the quality of communication might not be great. How will you better communicate your importance to students? And again, we'll do social media better. I do want a little bit more tangibleness, something to think on and bite into. So yeah, candidate Tamori, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're always talking about student engagement, and that's something that I did a lot with the Political Science Student Association. And really what we want to get across is that if push comes to shove and you need our services, that we are here for you and we have the funding for you. So, you know, pre-COVID, that would have looked like, you know, boothing at first-year residences, you know, letting our younger students know that we're here and that we offer services for them. Obviously, we need to ramp up social media. I know you don't want me to talk about it, but we really need to the SLFS has to do a better job to increase their social media presence. But I think as we start opening up UBC and hopefully we come back on campus in September, we can start physically boothing in the nest, in residence halls. We can actually get have face-to-face conversations with people and to really spread the word on what we do and to kind of show them that, you know, if you ever get into, you know, legal issues, we're here for you and we have the funding to support you.
Thank you, Kennedy Kimori. And that was a good point of clarification. I don't mean to disparage social media. I mean more so than just like the generic, oh, we'll do social media better. I do want like particulars, and you've done that well. So yeah, moving to candidate Shrine, 2 minutes, go ahead.
So I think Kia really kind of opened it up for us very well. We definitely plan to utilize social media. Something specific that I was thinking of to kind of just get students to understand how important this society is and why exactly they pay for it is highlight some of the prominent cases that we funded in the past, just to let students know kind of exactly what we're here funding for and kind of the tangible differences that we've made in the past, and kind of to encourage them to come to us in the future if they have any sort of problem that needs this funding.
Thank you, candidate Shrine. We have a fact check. The SLFS has done a privacy workshop in the past. I don't remember who exactly said that. It might have been yourself, candidate Shrine. But yeah, there's a Facebook event and everything for a student legal fund privacy workshop. So there's the fact check.
It was specifically regarding privacy?
It was.
All right, that's not bad.
Moving to candidate Maglalia. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think, like the rest of the slate was saying, it's important to like revamp our social media, just because, especially during COVID, I think it's hard because we don't have any face-to-face interactions. So that's the first thing. I want to touch on that too. And then also, I think we should just have more like information sessions and webinars. I, as like a first-year student last year, had no idea what the Student Legal Fund Society was or what we do. So I was thinking perhaps like webinars, which I know they have had in the past, but for traction and also going over the application process and just clarifying some things. And I also think that transparency is actually a good way to gain student engagement. I feel like if we're honest about what we want to do or what we like, asking the students what they want us to do with the money and how it's spent and what we're looking at doing is a good way to gauge how many people are involved and how we can like further that engagement.
Thank you, candidate Maglalia. Sorry, moving to candidate Lange. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Right, so I think a big thing is creating partnerships and maintaining the ones we currently have with LSAB and SAS, because by having these partnerships and funding groups, they can branch, students can learn about what we have to offer, and the groups can relay SLFS services to students. And then also in regards to broken links on our website, I think it's important for us, if elected, to be constantly keeping up with them, making sure they're up to date, so that if you are on our website, that you're not being misled to something that's not actually giving you any information that you need. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Lange. And rounding us out with candidate Feenan. Go ahead.
Can you just repeat the question for me one more time?
No worries. It's also in the chat. Many students don't know what the SLFS is or why they pay for it, and the website has several broken links. How will you better communicate your importance to students? And again, the caveat here is don't just say we'll do social media better. I do want tangibles. So go ahead, 2 minutes.
Well, I would also just like to acknowledge that Matt didn't necessarily know about this workshop, just because I think it speaks to how one of our pillars or engagement that wasn't highlighted. Matt didn't know about it because I think less than 10 people apart from the SLFS board actually showed up to that workshop. So then I guess that also speaks to Sophie's point that engagement is probably one of our biggest issues, that partnering with student groups on campus, we as a board of 6 don't have a lot of reach to tell people about the SLFS. So I think our biggest component, or like the best way for us to do that, is to partner with people to get into student lives so that we can show them the benefits while being a part of their lives, if that makes sense. So I know that the current board has pursued an equity audit through an EDI perspective to ensure that our shortcomings as students, as temporary board members, and individuals of varying degrees of privilege as well, have not created blinders in our bylaws or application process on that website. So those broken links as well can be fixed just by like having access to information with better links that provide information. So we don't want those processes to limit our ability to solve student problems. So we want to use that audit and the recommendations to make changes to our bylaws and our application process to ensure that equity, diversity, and inclusion are both advocated for and upheld. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Feenan. Right, and now moving into the audience questions. So for this, we'll start with candidate Feenan, go backwards and all that such stuff. We've got a couple of questions here. So hopefully we'll have time for 2, maybe 3. So yeah, your first question, candidate Feenan, is, yeah, so none of you, the candidates, have previously served on the SLFS Board of Directors. What other experience makes you qualified to manage the approximate budget of $750,000 that the SLFS holds? And I think this person wants both, the legal answer, but also, the financials of it. $750,000 is a lot of money. So candidate Feenan, you have 1 minute.
To be honest, I think this would be a better question for Matt or Kia. I do have experience with the Political Science Student Association, but only with the mentorship program. Matt works and has internships within finance. He can speak to that. And then Kia is within finance within the Political Science Students Association. So I think I'm actually going to pass this question on to them, but thank you.
Gotcha. Moving to candidate Lange. Go ahead, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, so I have to agree with Rachel. I think just also speaking like with personal experience, managing that large sum of money, I think it's important to have strong ethics and just work together as a group, make sure that we're hearing what the students need. And so that's a huge part of it, just focusing on where we should be putting this money and making sure that we're transparent as well so that everyone knows what's happening at the same time. But I'm going to let Matt and Kia probably elaborate further. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Lange. Moving to candidate Maglalia. You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone's been saying so far. Because we are running on a slate, I think we've kind of done a good job already at like finding our strengths and weaknesses and deciphering like how to best use these. So again, like I think Kia and Matt are more suited for answering this question. But as for myself, half of my first year was cut off due to COVID, and I feel like during this time I wasn't really exposed to the opportunities that I would have been if there was no pandemic. So right now I just kind of want to use everything that I know so far in my experiences, even just in high school and some in first year, and I want to apply them to my time at Ubyssey and do what I can to gain knowledge and also help the student body.
Thank you, Candidate Maglalia. I do want to note that you're all equals on the board, and it does make sense to have people who are specialized in things, but there should be a general amount of knowledge. But regardless, moving to candidate Shrine, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
So I think there's 3 main things that kind of qualify me. First of all is my studies and my commitment to this. I'm kind of looking towards a career in portfolio management, and I'm in 3rd year Sauder, specializing in finance. Secondly, my involvement with the Ubyssey Finance Association, I'm a member of that, so I'm getting exposure to those sorts of things through that. And third, and kind of the flagship qualification here, is my internship this summer will be with Catalyst Accounting, which specializes in smaller firms, kind of similar to the fund size of the SLFS. So I'm going to be getting tons of experience through that, managing money that is kind of similar to the size of the SLFS.
Thank you, candidate Shrine. Moving to candidate Timuri, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, so oversight is not something that's new to me either. In first and second year, when I sat on council, obviously council has to approve the annual budget for the AMS. So that is something that I took part in. I clearly, I had to analyze the budget and I had to vote on council. So that was something that I had to do. And previously with the PSSA, the Political Science Student Association, which I serve now. I'm the VP Finance, so I manage their portfolio. I ensure that they are financially healthy every single day. So I know how important it is also to make sure that we are responsible and that we know what we're doing, because we are frankly managing a lot of money. And so I believe that my experience with council and the PSSA is going to serve me just fine in this position.
Thank you, candidate Timuri. Right, and so we have one more audience question that I think is pretty good, and so then we'll go back reverse alphabetically, and then we'll go on to closing statements. So this last one is a bit more technical, so feel free to ask me for repeat. That's what the word is. So the first thing is, what do you think of the current application process for legal funding from the SLFS? In addition to that, what are specific barriers to accessibility for students seeking legal funding? And what concrete steps will you take to address these accessibility changes? It's going to be going into the chat, so no worries. But yeah, the main thing is, what do you think of the current process, and what are some ways that you can improve it and that you plan to improve it? So candidate Timuri, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a good and a pretty tricky question. I think that the application process is definitely needs to be reviewed, but I also think that it definitely poses barriers to people who aren't super proficient in English. I think that is something that we've all agreed on, that we want to help, so that if push comes to shove and someone needs to apply and they don't understand the terminology in the application process, we want to do everything that we can on our end to facilitate that communication between us and whoever it may be. So I think that is one way that we can improve the application process.
Thank you, candidate Timuri. Moving to candidate Shrine. Go ahead. You have 1 minute.
Okay, so I'll start by outlining the current process. So you submit your liability and application forms, then they're reviewed by the SLFS team, which is us, and then this application is passed to the litigation committee, and the litigation committee assesses the funding. So I think that one thing that we can do is kind of just improve that communication between the SLFS board and the actual lawyers that we'll be going to, and the people in the litigation community. I think that in the past, a lot of things can kind of be lost in communication, and our slate is very committed to kind of making sure that this is 100% error-free, and that we communicate very clearly what we're trying to do and what we're trying to get out of the litigation committee.
Thank you, candidate Shrine. So Timuri and Shrine have both addressed the accessibility part of it very well, and so for the remaining three candidates, I encourage you to look to things that they haven't already said, so about the language, or making the language a little bit easier. So yeah. But with that in mind, moving on to candidate Maglalia. Go ahead, 1 minute.
Yeah, well, we were just discussing I think that the previous board members have kind of also looked into the whole translation thing. There have been, I think, translation services provided, but we do want to keep building on that. But apart from that, I also think that just bringing awareness to, like I said about the webinar thing, I think hosting information sessions would also be beneficial, because the application process itself is structured well, but as Matt said, there are barriers between communication, student accessibility. So I think that perhaps a webinar or some sort of session like that would also be beneficial for the students themselves.
Thank you, candidate Maglalia. Moving to candidate Land. You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Sorry, could you quickly repeat what you wanted the last three of us to specify? Or to...
So I mentioned that Timuri and Shrine spent a fair bit of their time talking about the language and making sure that the language is accessible. I encourage the rest of you to think of something that is beyond the language to make more accessible. Sorry, it's a bit convoluted, but yeah. So you got it?
Yeah, got it.
You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Okay, well then I think just building off what was just previously said, having sort of webinars, etc. I think it's beneficial to have someone, we could go live and people can ask their questions face to face through Zoom, whatnot, so that you're not constantly you're reading things online without having someone there that can directly help you with any questions you might have. I think that's sometimes helpful. People learn better just orally versus reading like forms with a lot of text, it can be overwhelming and sometimes unclear.
Thank you, candidate Feenan. And thank you, candidate Lange. Candidate Feenan, round this out. You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
So I definitely do believe that the biggest barrier that students have is awareness, as it's been highlighted in the duration of the debate. Most people who know about the SLFS have involvement in the Ubyssey community, in the AMS, or in student government, which is frankly a privilege to have the time and the capability to take part in that. So I really do think that the EDI audit will help reveal the holes in the application process, in our bylaws, and will be a pillar of our board to really, really take those into consideration and make those changes just to ensure that equity, diversity, inclusion, especially accessibility, are advocated for and upheld. So I think that's our concrete plan. Is honestly, I can't give that to you because they haven't received that EDI audit yet. But once that's back, then I think we can move forward with a concrete, more finalized plan on how we're going to fill those gaps. Thank you.
Sorry, so just you're foregoing answering the concrete steps because you believe that you want to wait until the EDI thing comes back to look at concrete steps? Is that correct?
Not to look at, I just think that there's like obviously there's going to be shortcomings in our application process that I'm not currently on the SLFS board, but that application process was put through because they thought it was adequate. But if we're hearing that it's not adequate, I want to know why. I want to know the EDI perspective. What is not equitable about it? What's not diverse about it? What's not inclusive about it? And then once I hear that feedback, then I can take those recommendations and put it forward and then make those changes. But I don't have those yet for you.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Kenneth. And the record will show that you did forego answering concrete steps, but you did supplement that with the EDI audit. So, right. Moving on to closing statements. So you each get 30 seconds to say goodbye. Kenneth, go ahead.
I really hope that we've answered all of your questions today and that you're confident in our abilities to enhance the student experience at Ubyssey by ensuring the needs of students are taken care of, especially in terms of guaranteeing equitable access to education by taking the needs of students in consideration first and foremost. I'd like to thank you for your time and dedicated listening today, and I look forward to talking further on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Candidate Lange, follow up.
Right, so thanks everyone for listening. I think just to debrief again, as mentioned, main priorities of our slate, we plan to focus largely on engaging with Ubyssey students to form a better understanding of what they need and how to best allocate funds. And in addition to engagement, we plan to prioritize inclusion, diversity, financial accountability, and maintaining key partnerships with campus groups such as SASC and LSLAP. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Lange. Follow up, Candidate Maglalia.
So thank you to everyone who came out today and for all the great questions. I'm hopeful in my slate's ability to adequately address your concerns if elected. Again, we are focused on student engagement. This is our priority, and involving the student body in our platform in order to ensure that the resources of the Student Legal Fund Society are being put to use best they can be. And I hope to see you all again on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Maglalia. Candidate Shrine, go ahead, 30.
Great. I hope that we've adequately answered your questions and that you are now just as excited as we are to continue to steer the SLFS in the right direction, building it into a driving force for justice and the equitable treatment of our student body. If you have any additional questions or inquiries about our platform or our views for the future, please don't hesitate to contact a member of our slate. I would like to thank everyone for their time, and we'll see you in the great debate.
Thank you, Candidate Shrine. And round us out, Candidate Timori. Say goodbye.
But yeah, thank you so much for everyone who showed up. I have a lot of confidence in our slate, and I hope that we've earned your trust. We have comprehensive goals, and we have plans that we want to see turn into reality, and we really hope that we've earned your trust. So yeah, we'll see you at the great debate.
Beauty. I'll see y'all there as well. Right, so that brings us to the end of the SLFS debate. Everyone give a big round of applause to the folks. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all on Saturday again for another rousing debate. So I think that's the end of our agenda. So now there's a prize draw. There's the big prize draw. So Isabel, you want to come on up and? Oh yeah, there's a Qualtrics thing, I think it seems.
Yeah. So last chance to submit your Qualtrics. You have about 2 minutes. I just want to thank the Ubyssey and Pavan for moderating this very, very long debate. It's now past my bedtime, so if I stop making sense, I'm sorry. So thanks to all the candidates who showed up and came out and debated. And make sure you let your friends know that we have the great debate on Saturday. It starts at 10 a.m. and it just kind of keeps going until we are all done. So that's very exciting. And hopefully there we will get to see more fiery debates, and we'll have some great prizes there too. So thanks for everyone who came out and has stuck around till this very late hour. Now, I think if you submitted your names at the beginning, please resubmit, just because we want to make sure. So the link for Saturday will be posted up on our Facebook event. So let me send you the Facebook event. We're just trying to figure out if we can use the webinar function. We're having some technical Zoom complications, as there always are. But I'll send the link here. So for those of you who already, if you haven't put the Qualtrics in the second half, please do so. And let me find the event. There. Okay, so this is the link for the Facebook event. So you can look there for all our updates for the very last great debate. Yeah, no worries. So 1 more minute for the Qualtrics. Thanks everyone for staying up so late. I know we're all very busy.
Isabel, what race are you most looking forward to on Saturday?
I'm gonna have to say no comment for all of these questions, Pavan. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is not gonna be an interesting banter. We are, independent, impartial, unbiased, independent committee of the AMS. So, yeah, we don't get very spicy. It's our job to remain unspicy, actually, as much as we can.
That's fair.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Hey, we care a lot about ethics at the Ubyssey too.
Ethics are good. We do like to see that. Okay, so I think Mona, if you can just send me the wheel, that'd be great, so we can all go to sleep. Whenever you have a chance. I know it takes time to export the data, but yeah. So as you see, we're all having a little bit of trouble staying awake. Not that the debates aren't very interesting; they are, but just it's pandemic fatigue plus winter fatigue plus all the other fatigues. So our grand prize for the great debate is a fancy coffee maker. I didn't even know they made coffee makers this fancy, but so you can stay awake throughout all the elections excitement. You have a chance to win that fancy coffee maker. So okay, let me try and share screen now. Okay, so thanks for everyone. So for one of the gift cards, Mona, can you be writing this down? That'd be great. Okay, so for the first gift card, we have Erin. Congratulations. Okay, for the second gift card, we have anyways. Second gift card, we have Justin. Congratulations, Justin. Now for the first, or I guess technically the second, but for a pair of headphones that are so fancy, I don't even understand what they are. We have Kim. Congratulations. And for the last pair of headphones, we have Sarah. or Sarah. I apologize, I'm not sure. So congratulations. Please send me a message in the chat. Thanks so much for sticking around through this long and fascinating debate. And we hope to see you all on Saturday. So farewell, good night, Godspeed, adieu, and get some rest, folks.
Thank you, everyone. See you on Saturday for more rousing debate. Oh boy. All right. Good night, everyone. Bye. Oh, and the French debate. It's not going to happen, but yeah.